And we're live here on Pensare Basketball and Basketball Zone. Have my friend Leo here talking about the Sacramento Kings, the Toronto Raptors, trades, what's going on with Keegan Murray, what's going on with Tyrese Haliburton, what's going on with Scottie Barnes, and what the market value is around the NBA for guys like Pascal, Siakam, and OG Anunoby. Maybe from an outsider perspective, someone who covers the NBA, not in this Raptors sphere. How you doing, Leo?
I'm good, brother. Just finished playing some basketball. Got back from the gym. Got a few buckets, but struggled like the Raptors have all season long, bro.
Did
So,
you have 40% usage in the fourth quarter like Dennis Schroeder?
my guy Dennis, man. No, Dennis is a interesting topic for sure, man.
Yeah. Chaim Dirk saying, been waiting for a live with you and Leo. Let's go. Let's go, man. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe. Go subscribe to Basketball Zone and go subscribe to Pensare Basketball if you're not already subscribed. All right. So let's start with I kept it nice and organized on the private chat. Let's start with the contenders. So I want to talk about NBA contenders. Who are the contenders? Who are the pretenders? There's a lot of teams that are probably tricking themselves into thinking they might be contenders this year.
Agreed.
So who are the contenders for you right now in the Western Conference as you see it?
Before the year started, there were two legit, clear, no, I don't care who anybody is. I think we can all agree on that. And on December 21st, there are still only two, and that's Boston and Denver. I think there's that tier one, which is them, and then there's a lot of teams in tier two, a lot of teams in tier three, and then we have the weak ass Pistons and like garbage. But that's just me, bro. Like always
We
bet
just
against
lost
the
to the
Pistons.
Utah Jazz, man.
Always bet against the Pistons. I bet 100 in first quarter, got that. I wasn't trying to be too cynical and bet the whole game, but bro, there's no way they were gonna win that game. They're just awful.
I mean, you know what's funny? I actually took the Pistons.
Oh,
No. Don't get me wrong. I cashed out perfectly. So the Pistons and the Pacers were down huge, right? I
oh,
think
so
the
you
Pistons
took
were
money
down
line.
like
Yeah.
8, 9, and then I took like a
And
40-1 bet. And by the time the Pistons came back in the fourth quarter against the Utah Jazz, the Pacers had come back and closed the gap against whoever they were facing.
Grizzlies.
And yeah, so they were facing the Grizzlies, and they ended up losing. Both teams ended up losing. I cashed out as I cashed out, so that was good. It was a good bet. But you're right. There's
I
no
bet
way in
Grizzlies
hell.
today. I bet minus 130 Grizzlies. I just felt like the Pacers are pretenders. As I've said all season long, people are going to catch up to that transition 2019 Kings offense. And yeah, I was very confident in that Grizzlies bet today.
Okay, so there are some teams that have emerged as, let's call them pretenders, but I don't necessarily agree with you that there are only two contenders. So I don't think that Denver is the de facto, you know, only contender in the West, and I certainly don't think Boston is the only contender in the East. Even if I think those are my two favorite teams to come out of the conferences and get that.
Well,
But we've seen
define
it.
contender then, because I mean contender. I think those teams are better than everybody else.
I think a contender is a team that meets a certain checklist of criteria for me. So my criteria is you have a top 10 player. That's one thing. Number two, you have a top 10 offense. Number three, you have the potential to be a top 7, 8 defense. And number four, you have enough veterans, enough experience on your roster and continuity in your roster year over year that I don't think you're going to fizzle out in the thing. So it's like when I look at a team like the Cavaliers, right? Just short, right? But they're knocking on the door, but they're just short,
The
right?
Cavs right now.
Not now, but
Oh.
at the start of the season, you could sell yourselves on the Cavs or like one Evan Mobley turning into Scottie Barnes level, type of player away from making it all click together because they have everything. They have the defense, they have the dynamic guards, they have the offense. It's the same thing with the Milwaukee Bucks, right? Now, yet
That's
to be
the one
seen.
team. Yeah, that's the one team that's like right there, but they're not there.
But I mean, like, you could also make a case that in a 7-game series, I could certainly see a situation in which Milwaukee knocks out Boston. The reason I say this is partially because even though I believe in Drew Holiday a lot, and that would be popcorn TV, I think the thing that worries me is Boston's inability to get to the rim. Like, there's a serious jump shooting team. Live by the jump shot, die by the jump shot. There isn't a hell of a lot of creation, like a dribble creation. You know what I mean? Like
Would you say
like
that's
watching
more
yesterday.
coaching? Would you say that's more coaching, or is that more on the players because I think that has to do more with coaching because their guys can attack. It's just a matter of what their system, like what they're asked to be doing, really.
No, fair enough. They're gaming the system for sure. And, Missoula has them like shooting crazy number of jump shots. I also worry about, I mean, I'm not really seeing a $50 million player in Jalen Brown. Are you? I mean, I never saw it, but I'm not even seeing a $35 million player this year.
That's
Um,
crazy ass cap, bro. I don't know. This is the new NBA. It's unfortunate, but that's just
I
the
mean,
way
people
it is.
people out here trying to tell me that OG Anunoby is not worth 40 million. In a world where Jalen Brown gets 50 million, OG Anunoby is worth 40 million. But that being said, like I mean, his defense has been kind of falling off for the last 3-4 years. His offense hasn't been super great. I'm failing to understand what is the upside of this, other than he goes on a quarter here and there where he looks like the best player in the league or one of the top 10 players in the league. I mean, give me a guy like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander who gives it to me in all quarters, or give me a guy like
So
De'Aaron Fox who gives it to me in the fourth quarter when it really matters. But like to me, this like Jalen Brown, I have a very difficult time understanding how people see him as a top 20 player right now because he's not.
he's not playing
Um,
in the top 20 now, but I think going into the season, he was a top 20 player for sure.
I also worry about Kristaps Porzingis. Like his injury history. I mean, I'm very high on Kristaps. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he's been dogged mercilessly for no reason whatsoever. But certainly the gap between the Celtics and the Bucks to me is ultimately dependent on
Dame.
health.
No,
It's
I think Dame's washed, bro. I really do. And Dame's my favorite player.
washed.
I think people got to understand something. Dame is my favorite player, and I think the man is washed. I really do.
Define washed.
Washed means he was already a really bad defender for the last 7 years,
Sure.
and this year he's taking like that Russell Westbrook. Again, people consider steals as a good thing, like the surface level thinkers. Oh, you get a lot of steals, you're a good defender. Like that's what Russ has done. He's a guy that takes risks. He's an offensive defender. Like Dame is lower, like lower than Russell Westbrook now, and I just think that makes Brook Lopez unplayable in so many ways because if you're playing in drop coverage and this guy in Dame, who I love and adore, is consistently getting fucking destroyed, like that compromises your entire team. And I just hate to say it, man. I think they made the right move in theory because they're trying to make Giannis happy, but they got rid of the wrong guard, bro. It's hard for me to like justify this because what if they don't get like a top, top 1 or 2 seed, and then I don't know. I just feel like they're another piece away from adding something to this team just to try and salvage whatever Dame has left in the tank, and I don't think it's a lot, honestly.
I don't think he's really a regular season player, but the fall off from where he was last year, playing at a
But
borderline MVP
crazy,
level,
yeah.
to this has been significant. And the fall off is not only defensively; it's also offensively. Are there any other teams in the East that even inspire any sort of what
The
ifism?
Sixers, the Sixers are
Right.
they have pieces to go get an OG, even maybe a Siakam. I'm not sure what their salary cap looks like, but
They can get either or.
okay. So
If they're willing to move off of Tobias Harris. But even if they're not willing to move off Tobias Harris, all the pieces that you just got for James Harden plus
they're
some
dangerous.
picks can be parlayed back. It
They're
depends on where they think
they're
they are.
dangerous. They're,
Obviously, Joel Embiid is better this year than he was last year.
yeah,
Defensively, offensively, I think he's just better. I'm still annoying as hell. Still dives into the third row.
he's
Still dives into your
motivated. You're
ankles.
right. Yeah,
But he's better.
he's
He's
better.
being used better. I think Nick Nurse is using him a lot more creatively. Tyrese Maxey is friggin' incredible. Um, Kelly Oubre has been a revelation for them as a minimum guy. I think they have just enough on the fringes to make it work. Tobias has been okay. But yes, you're right. They have the assets to actually make it work.
Mhm.
And they have, a coach now that I actually believe can coach them through a playoff round who has the experience to do so. And I like Nick Nurse more than I like Doc Rivers, which is saying a lot because I wasn't a huge Nick Nurse fan, but he's an upgrade on Doc. So the
1000%.
Sixers to me, if not for Joel Embiid's, choker, tag in the playoffs, would be scary. Is there anybody else that even inspires a little bit of confidence? Any Orlando Magic hope in you?
No,
No.
it's just the Sixers and the Bucks. They're on the fringe if they make the right moves. Who is going to be more desperate? The Sixers GM just got an extension, I think, so he may not be very desperate. His job is not quote unquote on the line anymore, like a lot of people thought it was with the whole James Harden dilemma. So things have kind of shifted in his favor again. I feel like they always shift in his favor, no matter how you slice it. That's a very lucky man right there. And no, I just feel like the Bucks, because they have, second. Man, I don't know how people rank Giannis, but he's definitely top three at worst. So if you have a top three player in the world, I mean, you're always going to have a chance, even against a juggernaut like the Celtics. But I just think, like you said, the decline from Dame offensively really is where I'm concerned, because I've gambled a lot on the Bucks this year, and I've watched the fourth quarters. Like he's made some knucklehead plays that he hasn't made in a long time. So I'm worried about the Bucks for sure.
What about the Heat? Any hope for the Heat? Bam,
I
Jimmy,
I think
Kyle,
they're
one
washed.
last run, Tyler Hero.
They're washed, and I think if they make the right move, maybe they go out and they get a guy like Donovan Mitchell. I think that changes everything for them.
That could change everything for them, especially because they've plugged some very, very, very huge holes with Jaime Jaquez. He's been really good
I
for
like
them.
him. I like
I
him.
like him a
Viva
lot.
Mexico. Viva Mexico.
Yeah, I mean that's your affiliation, but to me, like I love him as a player. I've loved him for like I was very high on him at the draft. Um, I've been surprised even like how good he is. Like I thought he'd be good. He's been better than I expected. This is how you win, actually, when you get a guy like this in the middle of the first round, a Brandon Pajimski, like
He's nice.
he's amazing. I love him. Trace
Trace
Jackson Davis over with the Warriors. I mean, you think about that. They got those guys at 19th and 57th, right?
But that kid, that white boy, man, he can play. I mean, he's just high IQ. I just enjoy watching guys who play the right way, like a Tyrese. Again, you may think I'm a Tyrese hater, but he plays the right way. They're fun to watch, and just because I think guys have limitations doesn't mean I don't think they're great players.
I think the Raptors have an opportunity here to take one of these teams that we're ignoring right now, which is the Atlanta Hawks or the Indiana Pacers, and turn them into something that could be a little bit better than what they are. And that's with a trade of Pascal, Siakam, or OG Anunoby. We will definitely get into that. Let's explore the West now.
Yep.
I believe the Clippers have a chance. Now, you might think I'm crazy.
Not. Absolutely not. That's the team I hate the most.
I know you hate them. You're California. You're a
no,
California guy right now. And
I think the Lakers are better,
California.
and I hate the Lakers. I would I don't want to say, but I hate the Lakers more than anything in life. But they're better than the Clippers.
And you were barely alive for those 2000 and 2001 disappointments. But I will tell you this:
I was crying in tears.
You were a child. What?
I was 7. I was 7, 8. I was crying in tears.
Okay. I will say this, though. I think the Clippers, because, first of all, I like James Harden. I'm a James Harden fan.
Sure.
Okay. But some people don't like him. Okay. Some people hate him. Some people legit hate this guy. But I just respect basketball genius, and I think he's a basketball savant.
Yes,
okay.
Sure.
When it comes to Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Paul George, I cannot think of 3 players that good together right now in the NBA. I can think of, okay, maybe Jamal Murray at his absolute apex plus Jokic because of just how good Jokic is. But the evenness and consistency across those 3 players, Kawhi playing at his peak right now, Harden playing at his peak right now, they have some rotation role guys like Norman Powell, Ivica Zubac that I like more than I like some of the other teams' rotation guys like the Phoenix Suns, right? I'm not super sold on the Suns right now, even though I love the idea of Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and, there are some teams there that could be scary if they click. Now, we saw it with the Lakers last year. You would not have thought of the Lakers as a contender last year at all. At this time last year, they were basically lottery bound. And then suddenly they make a couple trades. Things look really different. And it's not even big trades. They didn't trade for some huge player. They traded for Rui Hachimura, and they unlocked Cam Reddish and guys of this nature.
Vanderbilt. They got Vanderbilt. They got
Bingo.
They got D'Angelo Russell.
Right. But again, ancillary sort of pieces, tertiary, fourth guys, fifth starters. And this is where you win. This is where contenders are built on the margins of defense, like Vanderbilt, like giving you that defensive effort. Hachimura, the emergence of a guy like Austin Reeves, like all of these things. And I look at the teams around the league that have stars and guys available for trades, guys like Zach LaVine, guys like Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, maybe even a DeJounte Murray if things don't work out in Atlanta. I'm seeing a lot of guys who could tilt the balance of one of these teams because it's not even like they're trading, a Davis Bertans for a Pascal Siakam and tacking on 5 picks. It's literally like you're swapping out pieces that don't work for pieces that work better. And I think of the Clippers, I think of a team that could be a scary out for somebody because in a 7-game series, if Kawhi and PG and Harden are going, it's really hard for me to understand if those guys have figured out the basketball synergy between them, how to stop that. I think the Dallas Mavericks have a chance. I think they have a chance. I mean, I'm not saying they have a chance at a championship necessarily, but one injury or one trade, and suddenly you have Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving. That is a lot to deal with in a 7-game series. Now you have Derek Lively, and you have depth, and you have shooters around them.
So you're saying they're an OG away from being in the Western
Everyone is an OG away. Everyone is an OG away. The Suns would be an OG away if they had anything to trade for him. They would be an OG away. Everyone but the absolute bottom feeders. Like I think the Kings are an OG or a Pascal away. I think, and I don't even rate the Nuggets that much. I don't think they're unbeatable. I think they're absolutely beatable. They have a slew of guys with injury issues.
If they're fully healthy,
when are they fully healthy? How often are they fully healthy?
But you're talking about the Clippers who are never healthy. That's crazy. Like you can't say the Nuggets are healthy, and then like the Clippers are known to be injured. I'm surprised that Kawhi's played this many games so far.
But absolutely. But I mean, every team has some sort of injury issues, right? I mean, even like you look at the Pelicans right now, right? If they traded Zion Williamson for whatever his perceived value is, and they got back pieces that actually made sense, hypothetically,
I would
even if
a heartbeat,
I would too, because the perceptive value of him versus the actualized real value that he brings to you on a basketball court and in your locker room on a day-to-day basis are completely pulled apart. There's still this theoretical, person out there that believes that he's worth 4 picks and all this potential. And I'm just like, at this point, you've been given this much opportunity. Fuck your potential. I don't care about your potential at this point. I just want to build this thing around Brandon Ingram. I want to build it around Herb Jones. I want to build it around Dyson Daniels and Jordan Hawkins and, Jose Alvarado and guys who I know on a night-to-night basis. I don't have to worry about whether or not you checked in or out. I don't like this. So there are all these teams that realistically are a piece away, in my opinion. I mean, right now, I honestly believe this sounds crazy. If you swapped Zion Williamson for OG Anunoby plus Gary Trent or something like that, or Zion Williamson for OG plus Jakob,
they're nice.
they'd be better because OG is just so no frills. Like he's not a better player than Zion. He's not even close.
Yeah,
but he just fits. He fits everyone. He's unassuming. He's a So I think we're setting up the next part of that thing well. But are there any other teams that really appeal to me? Yeah, the Lakers, interesting. If Anthony Davis can hold it together, he's right on the cusp of the Giannis conversation for me.
He's always rolling his ankle. He's rolled his ankle twice in 3 games in the last 3 games. Like you're always holding your breath with him though. Like I personally don't trust him to like last, and it's unfortunate. He's such a great player. But availability is the best ability, bro, at the end of the day. That's why I don't trust the Clippers. And really, with the Clippers, it's not even injuries. I just don't trust the way that team plays. Like, if you truly look at them and this little fake-ass winning streak they've had, they've beaten the Spurs twice. They've beaten the Kings twice on back-to-back, which the Kings are historically known to be just god-awful. Always bet against the Kings on back-to-back. So that's 4 wins right there. They beat someone else on the back-to-back. Like, I'm not impressed with anything that they've done.
Right.
And that's why I think, again, it's fool's gold, bro. Like, I'm not worried about the Clippers. Like, I'm just not. The one team I'm worried about is the Nuggets. The Nuggets, if they're healthy, they're the best team. They're the second best team in basketball.
So you would take the Celtics over the Nuggets if they played a 7-game series?
If they're both healthy, yes. I just think at some point the damn Celtics got to get over the damn hump. It's just like, I get it. There's this little idea that Tatum's a choker or whatever the false narratives are, but Tatum has showed up in big time games. I mean, Game 7, I think last year against the Bucks, huge game. Game 7, the series before, huge game. Like he lost to arguably the best point guard in history. Eh, I don't know. I mean, they're just so close to it, bro.
I take it you're not buying this the Timberwolves stock right now.
Fuck no. I'm the biggest Timberwolves hater. I just feel like those two bigs clog up the lane, and when it matters the most, one of them will be unplayable in the playoffs. It's so. I mean, that's my point. In this season, you truly can't game plan around so many weaknesses of so many teams.
Well,
And
they can always swap in Nas Reed, and that spaces the floor. Cat spaces the floor. I
but
think
then Nas
Anthony
Reed,
Edwards is special. I think Mike
yeah,
Conley's been
sure.
incredible. They're getting balanced attack across the board. Plus, they have Jalen McDaniels, who I think Jaden McDaniels. We have Jalen McDaniels. Fuck our lives.
Who you were
Jaden,
super high on.
I
You were
was high. I was high on him in the preseason
You
because
were.
I thought he was playing incredibly well in the preseason. But yo, bro, like this guy is checked out mentally. He's
Why?
not built for this.
Why though?
I don't know.
So
He's just
if you
not
put him on
built.
the Kings, would Mike Brown get the best version of him?
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like certain guys, I heard an interview with him where he talked about like basically every team is the same, and you just kind of like, if you can figure out one offense, you can figure out all offenses. And I sort of understood that implicitly from the fact that a lot of teams run the same shit. But I also like got a sense of his like mindset about basketball and the enthusiasm with which he approaches it. It also might not be a really big deal, but the Raptors do this pre-fit game, this thing every single day on social media where they snap pictures of guys as they walk into the building. Almost never do I see a player on their phone. I've never seen Joe McDaniels not looking at his phone. He's literally on his phone all the time. To me, social media is toxic for your brain. If he's on his phone all the time, that's mind numbing. I don't know. Players go through a lot of shit personally. They go through things, just like anybody. They're human, right? And we've talked about it before on our chats. Not everyone is trying to win. That's the mythology of it. You've covered some pretty absolutely horrible Kings teams. Guys are just like, bro, just let me fucking go home to my family. I'm done with this. So it's different when you can't motivate a team to compete for something like a championship, and you don't have guys motivated to just win at all costs. Not everyone is a super pro. Like Keegan Murray is probably just like, okay, whatever you need from me, coach. There are guys who are wired like that. Scottie Barnes is wired like that. But then the other guys that are just like, what am I doing here? This is just a job. And I feel like that's like 50% of the league ish.
Nah, I would say 70%.
Maybe more.
I would say
Exactly.
70% of the league.
I'm being generous when I
I've
say
been
50%.
around guys that just don't give a fuck.
Facts, and so have I. Like I've seen it, and you see it in the locker room. If you've been in the locker room and you see like the reaction after a game where you got blown out by 30, and you're thinking to yourself, how would I feel in this moment? And the nostalgic, sort of child in you thinks I'd be sitting there stewing and I'd be super upset. And you just see guys laughing and joking, and it's just like, yo, it doesn't fucking even matter. Like they don't care. They don't care at all. They're setting up their plans. They're setting up their hookups at the fucking hotel, who they're fucking like that night. That's all that matters. They don't even give a shit. They checked out because it is a job. At the end of the day, they get paid whether they win or lose, and that's the end of the day. But it is special when you can get a team like the San Antonio Spurs 2014 that everyone's just kind of clicking into winning, or even the Raptors 2019, or the Kings last year. I know I just named two teams that won a championship and then I named the Kings, but you guys had a really good locker room culture last year where you were just like, everyone was just, okay, screw the individual, let's go for the collective. That's hard to do. That's team culture. I think that's what the Raptors are trying to do this year, is they're trying to get out over the individualistic stuff. But that being said, there's still a lot of guys who are going very individual.
Real quick on team culture and what you just said, which I want Kings fans to understand, just really everybody. The Kings have two foundational pieces in Fox and Sabonis, right? I think we can all agree on that. And they have the one guy, the connector in Mike Brown. And there's this perception out there that just because Harrison Barnes is a great human, which he is, he's an amazing human being, does a lot of stuff in the community. I applaud everything he does. Consummate professional, shows up to work, the whole nine.
Yep.
If people are literally afraid that if you trade him, it's gonna fall apart. And I'm thinking to myself, like, do you not trust what Mike Brown has implemented? Like, do you not trust it? See, like, that's where I just find all these narratives hilarious because that's not the truth. If you get rid of this guy, he's gonna be just fine because this is predicated on having two All NBA players playing at a high level. If you don't have those two guys playing at a high level, nothing Harrison Barnes do will make you what you are today, which is a very good basketball team. So the idea here is to improve your roster. And if this
Mhm.
guy is making 18 mil, which a lot of people think it's it's a user friendly type of contract, which 18 is not
Yeah.
bad for a player of his caliber. So he's one of your tradable assets. Then you got to trade him because the whole idea here, as you said, a lot of these teams are a piece away from competing against again the team that I think is right there is the Nuggets. They're all a piece away from competing and taking the Nuggets to a 7-game series. It's gonna come down to execution and who wants it the most. Is Jokic going to be better than Fox? Like those are questions. But before we get to that point, we need that move. Whatever that move is, it's still yet to be determined, but which we can talk about.
I'm surprised that you didn't include Keegan Murray into your foundational pieces conversation with the Kings, that you don't see it as a trio of Keegan, Fox, and so
I'm
here's the thing.
I'm saying like two All NBA guys. Like Keegan has a lot of work to go to get to that level. That's
If you had to, if tomorrow I could just pluck one guy off your roster, let's just say, for instance, you can only protect two players on your roster. I'm assuming you're protecting Fox. The second guy you're protecting from an expansion draft is Sabonis or Keegan.
Sabonis.
Okay, so that's interesting. I value them almost equally, and maybe
Fair.
that's the difference
That's fair.
because like again, like I value the
You
shooting.
value Sabonis and Keegan or Sabonis and Fox?
Sabonis and Keegan.
Okay.
I value them almost equally.
Okay.
And the reason for that being that I have come a long way on Keegan Murray in terms of the defensive upside that we talked about. Like, so I think a couple of weeks ago, someone brought up like Keegan for OG plus stuff. And I was just like, meh, right? I kind of scoffed it off. And the truth is, now that I've thought about it, and then you sent me that 11-minute clip of him playing defense, and then I scoffed at that. Then I looked at the numbers, I scoffed at that, and I'm just like, wait a second, like let me just really, really watch him. And I spent some time watching like full quarters of Keegan Murray because I was curious. Like you saying he's really, really much better defensively, and I'm like, holy shit, he is much better defensively. I've always liked him as a person. To the point about Harrison Barnes, there's an interesting thing. Every time I make a trade with the Kings and Pascal Siakam, I always take back two players. In every trade I've ever done, I always take back two players. You know who those two players are?
Harrison Barnes.
Harrison Barnes is one of them. Kevin Huerter is the other one.
You have
I
to
always take back those two players.
For the
It's not
money,
just
though.
because of salaries. It's not just because of salaries. I mean, I know partially it is because of salaries. But the reason I keep making this trade over and over again is because I am one of those people that believes Harrison Barnes drives culture. I'm not saying your culture completely falls off a cliff without him. But what I'm saying is when Kyle Lowry left the Raptors, right? I think he was, by most generous estimates, the third or fourth best player on the team.
That's fair.
But the culture shift when he left, in terms of the culture of selfishness, leadership, all of it, it went out the door with him. So at some point, the intangible value of these guys that hold the glue of the locker room together, kind of the theory behind having guys like Thaddeus Young and Garrett Temple and guys of this ilk on your team. But the problem is they don't play.
Right.
So when they don't play, the value goes down. They're not in the foxhole. They can say whatever the fuck they want, but the truth is you're commenting on a game that you didn't even participate in. You just sat there. It's different when a guy like Harrison Barnes is playing major minutes for you. He's a part of your rotation. It's the same thing with Kyle Lowry. It's the same thing with any person of this, which is why I support playing young players, but I also support playing vets because these guys need to be on the court.
Vets
it's a
that can
teaching
play.
thing.
Yes, vets that can play, not vets like Haslam, who was washed 5 years ago, and they paid him a salary just to be an extended coach. Like that's different. HB can play.
He was a narc, bro. He was a narc.
He was a narc.
This dude's sleeping with a stripper, bro. So the way I see it is like, having a guy like Harrison Barnes on our team, I think would be
on
great.
the Raptors would be lovely. Like that's exactly what you guys need, and that's what I'm saying. I think he needs a change of scenery. The King need a change of scenery, and I'm not worried about him losing him because your two foundational pieces are 1000% selfless. And what I mean by that is De'Aaron Fox, for Christ's sake, he don't even drink. Like, that's a family man, married, has a kid. He has a great foundation with his wife, who was an All-American as well. Mike Brown always credits her for a lot of his success. And then you have another super unselfish player in Sabonis. So there are teams that have, like you said, superstars that are just selfish, me type of guys. The Kings don't have that. So that's why I'm not concerned if, or concerned if the Kings would ever fall apart, because their two guys are people that are great role models. And again, like, I know Charles Barkley always says, well, players aren't supposed to be role models. Those two guys are role models because they play the right way and they're absolutely amazing human beings who contribute a lot to the community.
So we talked about contenders. We talked a little bit about the Kings. Let's talk a little bit about the Raptors. The Raptors are a disaster, but they're not completely a disaster. There are disastrous parts of the Raptors, namely the win-loss record, their rotations. But there's a lot of things they're doing really well. Number one, Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes has taken a step, just like Alperen Sengun has taken a step, just like Tyrese Maxey has taken a step. These are the ascending stars in the league. They have taken a step. Scottie's taken a huge step. He's having a 6.4 box minus. It puts him in rarefied air in terms of Raptors history. It's the third best Raptors season of all time behind Kawhi and Vince. It's big. He's de facto our best player on a night-to-night basis. Yesterday, watching him against Nikola Jokic was like watching the Spider-Man meme. One guy's throwing a pass with his left hand. The other guy's throwing a pass with his right hand behind the back. It's just like, oh my God, we have something. In terms of potential assists, the Raptors are number one in the NBA potential assists. Just have guys who don't make shots right now. But in terms of getting Pascal easy buckets, we're getting Pascal easy buckets. I think the stat that was presented in tonight's Twitter Spaces was 53% of his buckets are assisted right now. Back in 2019, when he was in a gelling, beautiful offense with Marc Gasol and Kyle Lowry, it was 49%. So we're getting him easy shots. Even though he's in an extended shooting slump, we're getting him easy shots. We're finally developing Malachi Flynn. I know you don't like Precious Achiuwa, but he is flashing a lot of good things for the Raptors in spurts. And then he has one quarter where he's like the worst player who's never seen a basketball in his life, and it all goes to shit and everyone hates him. The bad is so bad with him. But the good is good enough that people are openly questioning whether he should be starting over Jakob Poeltl.
That's crazy. Yaka is consistent.
Jakob is consistent.
Whether he's consistently bad or he's consistent. Like, he's consistent.
He's number one in the league in true shooting. That's worth something.
Exactly.
But his paint defense has been falling off a cliff a little bit lately. And for a guy who doesn't shoot outside of 6 feet to not be a positive defender, to not be very switchable, and to be super turnover prone is a lot to handle, especially when he's not really helping your spacing. I think the Raptors are really struggling because
we knew that, though. Like, we knew that when they traded for him.
I know, but it's a big gap to fall from Fred VanVleet to Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder is ass. Like, he is straight up ass. I don't think he's a top 150 player in the NBA. I barely think he's better than Trey Lyles.
I think he's in the wrong role. He's not a starting point guard, which, again, you don't have. I mean, who would start? And that's like, Scottie's your point guard, but your coach wants to have a quote unquote, ceremonially type of point guard, and that's him. But
I think defensively, it's tough to start Scottie at point.
Right.
Gary does not necessarily provide the point of attack defense. So your defense, which, by the way, is the biggest issue the last few games, last 10, 12 games, 15 games, when you look at our lineup top to bottom, you don't see a lot of defensive liabilities. The biggest defensive liability on our entire roster is pretty much, in theory, Dennis Schroeder and Gary Trent. And they're not bad defenders. They're just not good defenders. I would argue Dennis is a bad defender, but that's just me. This team should be top 5, top 6 defensively if things are clicking.
And they're not.
And the offense is working. And they should be better shooters. There's no way anyone in the world could have projected that Grady Dick would come out and shoot 25% from 3.
Oof.
No one could have thought that Pascal was going to shoot 20% from 3 for like 2 months. No one at the same time, take the good with the bad. No one could have thought that Scottie Barnes would come out and shoot 38, 39% from 3. So some of the good and the bad is balancing out. But I think overwhelmingly, you had guys like Jalen McDaniels, Gary Trent Jr., and Grady Dick firmly pegged as spacers, and they're not spacing right now. Pascal Siakam, Dennis Schroeder, and Jakob Poeltl playing with Scottie Barnes constantly shrinks the floor. So there's a contingent of Raptor fans out there that are just like, yo, if you trade Pascal and you get back anything that resembles spacers, this team is going to be better. I'm opening myself up to that idea.
It's almost
However,
like the Rudy Gay trades. Sorry to cut you off.
It is like the Rudy Gay trade, except
concept.
Pascal is a way better player than Rudy Gay was.
Yeah.
Like way better.
But if you get those pieces like a Kevin Huerter, like a Harrison Barnes, which is, I don't want Siakam on the Kings. I'm just saying if you get those types of players, then Scottie becomes that much better, in my opinion. Which is what they want, because it was a mistake, and we all know it. Should have never drafted Dick over Hawkins. It's just stupid. And now they're paying for it.
I'm lukewarm on this. So I'm a huge Jordan Hawkins fan. You remember draft night?
Yeah.
Leo and I did the draft show together. I had Jordan 5th. He was on the board. The Raptors picked Grady Dick.
Crazy.
I was sad. But the more I have seen of Grady, even though he has struggled immensely this season, in the G League even he struggled. He's had 2 for 10 games in the G League, which is just not a place that lottery picks should ever struggle.
Ever.
Physically, he is behind schedule right now. I think athletically he's behind. Speed-wise, he's behind. But I'm seeing a lot of rookies struggling right now, bro. Jed Howard, Kobe Buffkin. And granted, those guys are not getting the same opportunity, but Grady hasn't gotten a ton of opportunity either. I look at guys like Scoot Henderson. These guys are all struggling. There's a lot of guys who are struggling.
But Scoot shows those signs of brilliance. Like he's had his moments, and with the whole eye thing, like that kind of backtracked him a little bit.
I think Grady's upside as a player type. I look at player types. I look at player archetypes. He was 19 years old when he started the season. He played a bunch of games as a 19-year-old. The vast majority of his games were played as a 19-year-old who's physically underdeveloped. He struggled immensely, largely because, I watch every minute of this guy's game. He is covered like you wouldn't believe. People are chasing this dude around. They're not leaving him open. He's getting contested. He's getting killed defensively. Anytime someone has him,
high though. I mean that's what you get.
I think it's partially because
hard at him.
Personally, I think it's because he's white and he wore what he wore. I think it's because he wore what he wore, and everyone's like, "Oh, you think you all that? I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna fuck you up." Yeah. And honestly, a lot of rookies go through this. I think a lot of high draft picks go through this. Cade went through this, right? Evan Mobley went through this. Anytime you drafted high, everyone wants to test you. The great difference with Grady is he wasn't drafted high, but his profile was high, right? After the draft, everyone was talking about Victor Wembanyama and Grady Dick. Those are the 2 guys that everyone was talking about. Largely Grady because of his fit and his swagger and his TikToks and all that stuff. You draw this much attention to yourself, I think either you are an absolute idiot or a genius. I like the confidence. I like swagger in young players.
That's cool, but I don't think he'll ever at best be better than Kevin Huerter. And if you're going to draft this guy over Jordan Hawkins, who has more upside than being better than Kevin Huerter, he's not better now, but I just think at 13, 14, like that's just a mistake.
We'll see. Maybe 3 years from now, we're right. You're right. You're saying it's a mistake right now. I think wait and see. I certainly could see a case for
in your heart. The pick was Hawkins, though. Like that.
I would feel happier right now for Jordan if it was Jordan. I actually had Brandon Podziemski higher than him. I think I had Brandon 15th on my board, if I'm not mistaken, 15th or 16th.
Now that would have been super nice. Holy cow! Right. You put IQ with Scottie,
right? I think I had Jaime Jaquez over him as well. So Grady was 19th on my board. So I had all of these guys who are doing well over him. Now, that being said, I firmly believed after I looked back on his tape that I was wrong. That even though he's struggling right now, I'm not willing to throw him out and say, okay, the Raptors are just wrong. The Raptors have a good track record with drafting. They apparently split a coin between him and Kobe Buffkin. They flipped a coin on it. Now, that makes me very sad because that means that Jordan Hawkins wasn't even on their radar. Jaime Jaquez wasn't on their radar. And that makes me think they're fucking stupid because Jaime Jaquez should have been on their radar. He fits a lot of what they're trying to do.
To be fair, as great as they've been, and they've been fucking amazing, that front office, they can't hit on everybody, bro. Like, it's okay to have misses sometimes. And this was the
craziest comment ever. Grady Dick is a Jimmer like draft pick. Shut up, man. Come on. Get out of here, Derek J, whatever. I don't know if you're a Kings fan or a Raptors fan, but you're crazy if you think he's Jimmer for that.
To be
What is
fair,
what is this notion of comparing every white guy to every white guy in human history? What is this
he's
racial
Nick
profiling?
Stauskas. He's Nick Stauskas.
Vivek will never outrun that moment. That clip became so viral. Stauskas. It has to be Stauskas.
Has to be Stauskas. What are you
Must be
doing?
Stauskas.
Oh my
Bro, I
gosh.
swear.
Let's talk trades because
Okay.
I feel like the Raptors have again pieces that addition by subtraction type of things that they can do, just like the Sixers. They got rid of Harden, and
Mhm.
that really unlocked their guy, which was Maxey. Scottie is already technically unlocked because he's putting up all-star numbers. But if you want to take him to the next level, I think if you put the right shooters, the right personalities around him, I don't think Siakam is a good personality to be around him. In my opinion, you could feel differently, but
I think it's fine. I just think it's difficult because ideally the types of players you want around Scotty are as follows. You want a pick and roll ball handler, right? So you want someone like a Zach Levine, for instance, right? You want
he'd
someone who
be
can
nice. He'd be
handle the
nice on the
ball and
team.
score on 3 levels, right? So you want a player like that, or Jamal Murray, or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm not saying that those guys are available. I'm just saying those types, that player type. You want movement shooters. So you want guys like a Kevin Huerter. You want 3-and-D guys. So you want an OG Anunoby, Harrison Barnes, those types of people.
Well,
Right.
Harrison Barnes doesn't play defense, which is why the Kings are struggling. But yes, in theory, like you want the 6'8" guy that can potentially shoot. But with Harrison, it's sometimes he won't even look at the rim or even take shots. I think
Mhm.
that's the big issue with the Harrison Barnes, with the Kevin Huerter, because in the playoffs, both those guys were just got off one. If Kevin's not making shots, he's worthless on your team. And not worthless is a mean word, but he's
I
not
like
very
Kevin Huerter a
impactful.
lot.
He's
I'm a
not
very,
impactful.
very big Kevin Huerter fan.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
mean, he's
love
a
him.
great kid, but at the end of the day, you're judged on what you do on a consistent basis. And he disappeared in the playoffs. He was the worst player in the playoffs. And then this year, he's had too many ups and downs to where I don't think he's a starting shooting guard in the NBA.
That's where we disagree. I think he is. I think he's he's a great shooting guard next to a team that can play defense. So, for instance, um, if he was on the prime Golden State Warriors in place of Clay, I think they're still championship contenders.
That's fucking crazy. You're saying you're switching prime Clay with prime Kevin?
Kevin with Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Kevon Looney, you're
Dude,
still a championship contender.
Clay
My
Thompson
point.
is one of the best players. I mean, that's
I'm not
the
saying he's
disrespect to
equivalent.
Clay
I'm
is
not saying he's
crazy.
equivalent. But what I'm saying is the thing that he gives you, which is the constant
You
motion
don't
of
play
move.
defense though. That's his biggest issue
Clay's not playing defense right now either.
right now, for sure. But I'm saying prime Clay was an elite defender.
He was a good defender.
He's a good defender, but
He was not one of the top 15 defenders in the NBA in his prime. I don't think he was.
that's the tough argument.
Like he
Top
was
15?
he was Siakam level. He was a top 20 guy defensively, fringy top 20. I could always, first of all, it's very hard for a perimeter player to ever be a top 15 player defensively, ever.
Sure, but
Very hard.
like, what
You
does your
have to
eyes
be.
tell you? Like your eyes tell you that Clay Thompson was pretty damn good at what he did.
My eyes tell me that Draymond Green is a hell of a freaking defensive anchor.
Oh,
And
he
my
is,
eyes
for
tell
sure.
me that playing defense with that guy behind you is very different than
Yeah.
playing defense with DeMontis Sabonis behind you. Okay.
100%.
So I'm saying that Draymond Green makes everyone better. That's
Yeah.
what great defensive anchors do. If I play basketball, okay, well, if I was great athlete in my prime and I played basketball with Bill Russell behind me, I'd be a better defender for it. That's what defensive anchors are supposed to do. In theory, that's what Rudy Gobert and Draymond Green are supposed to do. This comment right here, William Seal, thank you so much for the super chat. I don't know if this went which channel this went to, but what are your thoughts on trading Pascal and OG in the same package? They don't seem to have great value by themselves, so why not combine them so you can find a better deal? First of all, I disagree. I think OG has tremendous value by himself. But this idea of trading both in the same package is interesting.
It's impossible.
It's not impossible. There is one team that can do it.
Who?
It's the Atlanta Hawks.
Oh, I guess.
So the Atlanta Hawks package would be as follows. Now I don't know if they hang up the phone, but I think it's a deal worth exploring, especially if they really, really believe that Trae Young is the guy. DeJounte Murray. Okay. DeJounte, I like DeJounte. Some people don't.
I
like
love something. But go ahead.
Okay, DeJounte Murray, who's having kind of a down year in terms of
Who
like
cares? He's good.
defense, but he's great.
Yeah.
I like him, and I
Yeah.
like him next to Scottie, and I love him as a person. So
Yeah.
this is like DeJounte is a win for me. You take back the contract of oh my god, starting small forward, fuck, Hunter.
Hunter. Okay.
Okay.
Number 4 pick.
Yep. I mean, I think he was fifth, but whatever. Or was he fourth? Fifth, fourth, or fifth?
Fourth.
Okay. So you take Hunter, you take DeJounte, and Onyeka Okongwu.
Oh, that's a win for the Raptors. Oh my god.
I think I think it upgrades their overall talent. Okay. Because you're getting a lot of now. You get defense around Trey, elite defense. I mean, granted, you're also giving up all three of your positive defenders, but you're getting a secondary creator that fits a little bit better with Trey. It kind of takes away this like overlap of Trey and DeJounte. And for the Raptors side, even if you don't get Onyeka in this, let's say you don't get Onyeka, instead you settle for AJ Griffin, Kobe Buffkin, and a filler. Or maybe instead of if they're not including DeAndre Hunter, let's include instead Bogdanovich. So you get your movement shooter who's 31. He's gonna age like fine wine. He's got a couple years of really good basketball for sure. Former King.
That's my boy. Like he got me tickets when I was visiting New Orleans. They were playing, and I texted him. He's like, "Bro, I got tickets for you." Like that's
awesome.
My boy. Yeah,
he's awesome. So him and DeJounte Murray and AJ Griffin and Kobe Buffkin, and we hit the reset on this, and they get OG and Pascal. In theory, a trade like this works for both teams. They get closer to the contention window. They remove the overlap of DeJounte plus, and we get players who fit better around Scottie Barnes. Jeez. I wonder if that trade
makes sense. Win though for the Raptors. In the heartbeat.
I mean, they get the best player in the trade.
Who, OG?
Siakam. Siakam, bro.
I don't be cynical, bro.
OG's great. OG's value. I was talking to a scout the other week, and he said the value of OG is it's a future-proof contract. Even if you sign him to a extension that feels a little bit rich, the value of him is that literally every team will always need a player of this sort.
100%.
He's a complete low maintenance locker room guy. He fits into any team's offense or defense with no consequence. If you have an elite 3, he can be your 4. If you have an elite 4, he can be your 3. Honestly, if you have an elite 3 and 4, he could probably be your 5. He literally does everything that you need for a modern basketball. Like basketball analytics were literally designed around this idea of a versatile big wing who shoots threes and is low usage. He is that. He is evolving as a playmaker as well right now, which I really appreciate. I think he's worth $40 million.
So what were your thoughts on Bill Simmons' silly self saying that he's not better than the guy from the Knicks? What's his name? The lefty.
Emmanuel Quickley?
No, the small forward, the guy from Duke. The hell is his name?
RJ Barrett?
Yes, RJ.
I could certainly see why he would say that, because 21 points per game or whatever looks a little bit better than 15 points per game, 14 points per game.
And he's 3 years younger.
But he doesn't play defense anywhere near OG's level, right? I mean, I would more or less see the case if he said Emmanuel Quickley and OG were comparable.
Because he's saying that because everybody wants OG, and he's like, I don't buy the fact that he's worth 35 to 40 million, and a guy like RJ is perceived differently. He's pretty much saying people are full of shit when they value a guy like OG, is really what he's trying to get to.
RJ doesn't have anywhere near the ceiling raising potential of an OG Anunoby. He has floor raising potential. Like he can bolster a terrible offense. So if RJ Barrett and both, like let's say we ran a 2K sim, and on one sim we put RJ Barrett on the Wizards right now, and in one sim we put OG on the Wizards. Neither player is elevating that team to the playoffs at all. So they're not the biggest floor raisers, but maybe RJ could do a little bit of a better job doing that with more usage, etc. However, If I take a team like the Lakers that are much closer to contention right now, and I threw RJ on there or OG on there in a sim, the OG team wins every time because OG plays off of guys so well. That's why I want to keep him with Scottie. That's why I don't want to trade him, because I think he and Scottie can play well off of each other if there's space for them to both work. Right now, the space is complicated because you have Jakob, Dennis, and Pascal.
Awful. Just
It's
awful.
It really is.
I hate watching that team play, honestly.
Me too. And I cover the team, and absolutely, it makes my eyes bleed. I sometimes will turn on, another team like the Denver Nuggets, or even shit. Like, I mean, the Boston Celtics. I mean, every team out there is running more. It's not even that our offense is so ugly; it's our execution that's so ugly. And more recently, our defensive identity has gone to shit. We're not really doing that. So, in terms of trades, I think the three teams that are constantly brought up are the Indiana Pacers, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Sacramento Kings for both players, whether it's OG trade or Pascal trade.
Well, the
First
Kings
of all,
can't get that done for both because that's about $60 million, and we don't
I
have.
mean one or the other. So whenever we're thinking
Yeah.
like OG trades, people are like, "Oh, what about the Kings?" When
Yeah.
people think Pascal trades, people say, "What about the Kings? What about the Pacers? Whatever."
Yeah.
So my question for you is, number one, which of these teams do you think it works best for, and like, what are your thoughts on each
I
these
think
two
the
players on each?
Pacers. I think the Pacers have a compelling package, right? Like they have their first round pick that they can easily give up, who's not even playing on one of the worst defenses I've ever seen in my life, which is just crazy. How Ray Carlisle came out the other day. Well, I think we should, and he was pretty much throwing Buddy Hield under the bus. But reality is, your superstar gets fucking destroyed every night, and it starts with him. He's the guy that sets the tone.
Defensively?
Yes, defensively, like he's your tone setter, and he's getting destroyed. So, what do you think the role players, as you call them, bums, are going to play like? But that's neither here nor there. They have a
Some
compelling
people are
package.
saying that he's getting exposed after all of the attention that came to him after that whole Dame
Bro,
time
he's a
thing that he did.
94 overall on 2K. That's fucking crazy. He's higher than Edwards and De'Aaron Fox by like 5 overall points.
Yo, you think that's bad? Scottie and Pascal are 86 apiece. Okay, the Raptors suck in 2K right now, but largely because the Raptors suck in real life. However, I will point out this. I think your concerns about Tyrese Haliburton are a mixed bag, which is to say that I think you're right and wrong at the same time. Number one, yeah, I agree. Tyrese and the Pacers have been widely overrated by a lot of people, and maybe some people got really carried away when they started talking about him being the second best player in the NBA behind Nikola Jokic. Maybe that's a little bit crazy.
I mean,
Box plus minus said that.
I'm not surprised, but yes, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
I do, however, think that a large part of at least what I've noticed with the Pacers recently is when that report came out that Tyrese is looking to recruit a second star to play with him. I wonder if that changed the entire vibes of that team, because now suddenly everyone's looking around saying, "So what am I, chopped liver? This is not working." Oh, Obi Toppin is now looking at himself like, "Y'all telling me that I'm the problem here?" Because frankly, you are the problem. I mean, you're the weakest link in the starting lineup. You might be the worst starting power forward in the NBA, and you're definitely the worst defender in that starting lineup, not named Tyrese Haliburton. So at the end of the day, yes, you are a big problem, and you deserve to be upgraded.
To be fair, Buddy's a worse defender than Tyrese, but yes, they're both bad.
Right. And I mean, like, Obi Toppin is not helping at all, right? If you replace Obi Toppin with even a guy like Draymond Green right now on that team, they are firmly like 5 wins better. Like, it's a big gap between competent power forward play. And if Pascal Siakam, so here's the crazy thing, like today on today's live, we were talking on today's Twitter space, we were talking about Pascal's upside. What is the trajectory for this guy who's turning 30 years old? He's 29 right now. He's turning 30. Can he regain? Is there any sort of bloom potential of him as a shooter and defender at the next level? Maybe there's something we haven't seen from him before. And certainly he's still quick. He's still long. He's still got a 7'3" wingspan. He's still got incredible ball skills. He's still a guy who draws a double team occasionally and quite frequently, actually. He's still an above average, if not one of the best playmakers at his size. He's not Domantas Sabonis. He's not Alperen Şengün, and he's not Scottie Barnes and Nikola Jokic. But in terms of like, he's top 10. He's top 10 in terms of being a playmaker at his size.
So what you're saying is the Pacers need Siakam more than the Kings do.
Basically, the Pacers need Siakam more than, a thirsty person in the desert needs water. Like, they need this guy so badly.
Because
And
I
I
feel
wonder,
like Siakam and Sabonis kind of a little bit clash more than some people may admit to that. Like I think he's an upgrade over Harrison, but I just feel like the player type is very similar because of how Sabonis plays.
it depends on how you want to play, how you intend to use him. If you stagger him and Siakam becomes your de facto De'Aaron Fox replacement in the second unit, where he's initiating pick and roll ball handling and getting downhill and scoring in the post, now suddenly you have a very different equation where you can almost split shifts, where it's almost like Siakam and Keegan play off of each other super well. Keegan being the shooter, Pascal being the driver and initiator and creator. And you just put things around them, put Malik around him, whatever. I think you get like a 4-man unit there. I mean, if you were to get Siakam without giving up Keegan Murray in this trade, which I'm assuming you guys wouldn't, then you have like a dynamic foursome. It may not be the greatest fit in the world, but Siakam could be a better center for you than anything you've had at the center position for a very long time. The issue is spacing, but Siakam's three-point shooting is trending up. Believe it or not, Siakam's actually an above average shooter now in terms of true shooting percentage. He's been the most efficient or one of the most efficient post scorers in the league this year. He does operate in a lot of the similar spaces that De'Aaron Fox does, so I wonder about the fit and whatever, but he's been a decent corner shooter before. I think he's instinctually a guy who would play well with more space. Same thing I say about Scottie is the same thing I say about Siakam. The more space, the better. Now, Siakam is playing in an offense which does not have space. For the last 3 years in a row, he's playing in an offense which does not have space. Previously, the space was not being created by Aaron Baines and Kem Birch. Now it's not being created by, Jakob Poeltl, Dennis Schroeder. I mean, De'Aaron Fox, like having a guy like De'Aaron Fox to shift, like people are seeing Siakam's numbers right now and they're judging it against other players, that they could think of maybe trading for, but they're not seeing the coverage that Siakam gets and the attention he gets. The attention he gets shifts attention off of somebody else. And in your case, it would be Keegan Murray or De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis, all of whom have an easier life if Pascal buys in. So I could see a case for Pascal being a huge upgrade for the Kings.
For Harrison Barnes, yeah. So if you say...
If he commits to defense. If he does not commit to defense, if he plays the sorry-ass defense that he played yesterday, then he's helped nobody. The same thing for the Kings. I think Siakam, I was talking about it on Twitter Spaces today. I have a feeling if Siakam gets traded for the entirety of the season left,
he has to.
He's going to average like something crazy.
He's trying to get a contract. He's trying to get a contract. He's playing for his life.
Dude, he's getting a max contract no matter what. I guarantee it.
I don't know, bro.
Guaranteed. I'll bet you.
If he shits the bed, no fucking way.
Define shitting the bed. If he's 22, 8, and 6, he's still getting a contract. And that's pretty much where he's at right now. He's 22, 8, and 5, 22, 7, and 5 right now. Like, if he
stays at these numbers, he's not getting $40 million. He's getting 4 years, $35 million per.
Not a chance.
And like he wants 45.
He's gonna get it. No. Dude, he's a better player than Bradley Beal. 100%. He's a better player than Zach LaVine.
I mean, that's not saying that. I don't know about Zach, but he
is a better player than Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine's a cone. Okay, there's no way in hell that he's not a better player than Zach LaVine. The difference is Zach's
not a cone. Zach doesn't like to play defense, but if he buys in, he has the intangibles and the tools to be.
When has he ever been a positive defender in his entire career? He's never been it.
Well, De'Aaron Fox was until last year either, and now. If you have the right coach, again, he has the skills to be good. Trae Young doesn't have the skills and will never be a good defender because he's unathletically unable to ever turn the switch.
Scrappy Hooper saying who's better, Pascal Siakam or Jeremy Grant? To me, Pascal Siakam firmly, but some people are going to say Jeremy Grant.
I think Siakam is a better player, yes. Who's the better fit on the Kings or on the Pacers? I think Siakam is a better fit on the Pacers, and I think Grant's a better fit, but as Rob says, you got to go Siakam just because in the playoffs you want the better player. And when the game gets tight, Siakam, even though he's extremely limited offensively, his little weak ass spin that bumps you in the shoulder and gets up, like he still gets
Yeah.
it done. So like again, I hate how limited he is, but at the same time, that shit works. So
Facts. And I mean, in the end, I look at a player like Pascal Siakam and I say he's operated as the first option. Now, I've seen a lot of players operate as the first option, struggle, go be demoted to second option, third option, and thrive, right? And
he'd be a
next to
second option on the Kings, though, for
yeah,
sure,
and
for
I
sure.
mean he might even be second, third. He might be a 2B. Demontis Sabonis might have it going one night. I think that trio makes the Kings so dangerous.
So hear
I'm
me out
not
on Sabonis. Sabonis can't be your second leading scorer. I don't think, I know he needs to be your third or fourth guy in terms of wanting to score because Sabonis is your connector. And I think people misconstrue this idea that he's an All NBA player because he does other things great. There are moments where he doesn't even look at the rim to score, and that's an issue. It was an issue in the playoffs, and he's going to get judged. KOC obviously is getting fucking slammed right now by a lot of Kings fans because of his timing and his disingenuous
what do you
idea.
do?
So he came out yesterday after the Kings got destroyed by the Celtics, and he talked bad about Sabonis. It's just the timing of things. He never came out when they won 6 out of 7. Like before that loss, like they were balling, and we never heard of him. The moment they get destroyed and have one bad game, he said that they were like the demise. Like this is the game where the Kings got broke, and just like, bro, like relax. It's one game. Like it's not that big of a deal. So Kings journalists, like everybody went at KOC, and like it was crazy to see. So he's getting a lot of negative attention for that tweet. He's not wrong though. I mean, he said they need defense, which they do. He's not a big Sabonis fan because of his limitations at protecting the rim, which maybe if Siakam buys in, he could be your weak side.
That
Not
might explain his obsession with Mo Bamba, though.
who's
KOC's. He's
he likes
obsessed.
him.
He's obsessed with Mo Bamba, bro.
Is Mo Bamba even in the league?
I don't know. He likes Mo Bamba. He likes Bol Bol. Basically, you got long arms. KOC is all over you, bro. You got short arms like Desmond Bain and Demontis Bonus. He's not fucking with you at all. Like that's basically it. Like there's no one in the world more obsessed with wingspan than Masai Ujiri other than Kevin O'Connor.
KOC. Okay,
That's
so
funny.
so he said that, and and that's where I think again, it's more. He's not wrong, but it's more on the timing of coming out and being like, okay, now they suck that they lost one game where Tatum didn't play. Whatever. It's one game. It's not a good look. They allowed 144 points. They play like the Pacers defensively. I get it, but at the end of the day, they still need an OG. But my argument is going back to Sabonis. If he's your fourth option in terms of scoring, you're a championship contender. And my move is not Siakam. It's OG first, but that's not happening. So my move is going out and getting DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso. I think that move makes the best sense for this team because DeMar DeRozan is a guy that's going to shoot over 85% from the free throw line. He's going to draw fouls, which again, you need a bucket getter in your starting lineup. Coach Brown said he's not starting Monk. Monk is a starting level guy, but at the end of the day, your bench is that much weaker if you put him in a starting lineup. So let's take Monk out of the equation. I don't trust Kevin. I don't trust Harrison. I don't trust Sabonis. Keegan is the only guy that I could trust, but there's so much pressure on him to put on him because now he's taking on this, I'm the lead defender and I'm guarding the other team's best player. So that's why he's struggled for the majority of the season. So why not go get a guy, the mid-range king, who, if that guy is coming off of a DHO with Sabonis, holy cow, the spacing, he can literally get to his spots, and he's a very underrated passer. I mean,
what are you guys trading to get Alex Caruso plus DeMar DeRozan? Because certainly they want picks for DeMar. I promise you that.
100%. So my trade package is Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter, Davion Mitchell, and 2 first-round picks. I think that makes a lot of sense for both teams. DeMar's he's expiring, so even
Harrison's borderline, like negative value right now or neutral value. Alex Caruso is probably like one of the most desired assets. I could guarantee you right now, if there's a team out there, they most teams I think who are contending, which apparently the Kings are, if you're making this move and you're trying to move yourself into that, I think most teams would make two picks plus a filler for Alex Caruso, no problem.
Who's
Just because of
giving him
how
2
underpaid he
picks
is.
though? Like nobody has 2 picks that are contending.
But you're not a good team. You're a good team, so your picks are not as valuable. That's also has to be considered into the equation. Not all picks are equal. I mean, there was a rumor last year that
Right.
someone dangled 3 first-round picks for OG Anunoby, but they weren't good picks. They were Memphis picks, right? Now, in hindsight, with everything going on with Ja Morant, maybe those were good picks. But my point is that I don't necessarily think the Bolts bite on that offer. The reason
Nobody giving that 2 picks for Caruso, bro. I love the guy, but whoever does is getting fired.
he's honestly like, in my opinion, I think he's on par with OG as a perimeter defender, if not
He's
better.
amazing. I just think
But he's paid like, and he's on a decent contract for an extended term. Like he's on a couple years
2
left.
years. No, he has
2 years left.
So
On
this
like,
year,
what's he making? 12 million, 11 million, something like that.
This year, he has next year.
Bro, he's making less than a mid-level exception guy. He's one of the most criminally underpaid players in the league, and he provides so much value.
But he's injured a lot of the time.
Fair enough. I also think he's an underrated offensive player. I'm not trying to boost him, but like I think he's a really good player, and I think DeMar DeRozan, probably they're looking at multiple picks for DeMar DeRozan alone.
You're not
so
getting
I think
picks,
I think
max 3 picks max.
Okay.
3
so
picks.
okay,
but that's
so
a good package for them. Because
so here's my other side with this, which is this comment by Maroon Prince. Yikes, DeRozan and Fox. I think the one negates the other. I have a feeling, like, as much as I want someone to draw some attention away from Fox, ideally, this is the same thing as Scottie and Pascal, where one guy does DeMar DeRozan space the floor for you.
Jakob Poeltl is not Sabonis. Sabonis is a connector. People don't understand this. Sabonis is your offensive hub that makes the whole thing a historic NBA offense.
But how well does DeRozan move off the ball? He's a guy who
very well off the ball. And in this system, it's a plug and play. You're literally replacing Harrison Barnes, who doesn't even fucking shoot the ball well. And people, the spacing. He don't shoot threes. Well, what does Harrison Barnes do, honestly?
But he has the reputation of shooting threes. So does Kevin Huerter. The theoretical space is different.
Right, it's reputation.
But the reputation matters. See, like, even when Fred VanVleet was shooting 29%. See, here's the funny thing. So last year, to start the season, Fred VanVleet started shooting like 27 to 29% from three. Okay? And this year, to start the season, Dennis Schroeder was shooting like 50% from three. Guess which player teams went under on, and which teams blitzed on the pick and roll. They still guarded Fred VanVleet like a shooter, and they still guarded, and they will always guard Dennis Schroeder as a non-shooter. It's the same thing with DeRozan. Teams don't give a shit about him at the three.
Understand how the Kings offense runs, the whole spacing. Again, people are basing this shit off of perception of he doesn't shoot threes. What people don't understand is how the Kings run their fucking offense. And if they just watch the game and they watch a little bit of film of how a pick and roll between DeMar and Sabonis would run, where you got nothing but space. Fox is shooting 40% on 8.2 attempts. Like, this isn't low volume, guys. Like, people have to stop saying that shit now. Like,
does DeMar's defense scare you?
Yeah, in the playoffs, so does Harrison Barnes. Like, but if you get Caruso, you got an elite defender now. Like, that's where I'm at. You're swapping weak out, and now I'm gonna be disrespectful. You're swapping a guy who was perceived to shoot the ball in Harrison Barnes, who hasn't done that all year, who was a terrible defender, but KOC will say that's his favorite defender on the Kings, which, again, if you watch
long arms, he has long arms.
But it's crazy.
Harrison has long arms.
So he don't play defense, though. So I'm fine with DeMar not being a defensive magician. But if you get Caruso in the deal, then it's different. Like, to me, that's a game-changing trade that alleviates Sabonis from ever looking at, like, don't look at the rim, bro. Give the ball to DeRozan when Fox on the bench. You have an elite bench scorer and Malik Monk, 6th man of the year.
You think DeMar would resign?
See, that's where I'm not worried about, because if they make a run, if he doesn't, now you finally become an attraction for somebody else to come, or to make like a sign and trade with somebody else, because that money opens up for you next year.
Mm. So you're trying to clear the contract. Plus, you get
No,
Alex Caruso.
I'm open to signing DeMar, but if it doesn't work out and you make at least like the third round, like someone's gonna want to come play with you.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I don't necessarily see Davion Mitchell as some huge asset that you're dangling in this trade, but
He's a negative asset, bro. He's a negative asset. To me, it's the
I'm glad
Bulls.
we've come there.
Like,
I'm glad we're on the
no,
same page
yes,
with that.
like the Bulls are blowing it up, bro. Like that's what the Bulls are doing, and they're getting picks out of it, and they're clearing up space.
I actually like this fit for the Bulls. I mean, with Kobe White doing everything that he's doing right
Yeah,
now, he's balling. He's playing really well. Putting guys like Harrison Barnes and
Kevin
Kevin
Herter.
Herter next to him is great. I think Kevin Herter would fit really well next to him. I wonder, if the picks if they would have their hearts set more on DeRozan for a young player plus a pick as opposed to a package of 2, 3 picks that again are coming from a team that is genuinely considered to be good and up and coming. Um, but yeah, that's interesting. Are there okay? So to be on the Raptors side of this, we've talked about the Atlanta Hawks a little bit.
Great trade, by the way. I would love the Raptors after that.
I would too.
My God.
I mean, as much as I love OG, and OG is one of my favorite
Yeah,
players in the league.
get rid of him.
It's a
If that nets you, DeJounte and Okongwu and the other guy.
Yeah, like Bogdanovich or even AJ Griffin. Like I like a lot of their young players. So here's the thing: Scottie and Pascal have both operated with limited space. I think that straight line drivers and big playmakers who have limited space, like a Giannis Antetokounmpo, like even a Nikola Jokic, the less space these guys have, the worse. It almost negates their advantages. So I would really be curious. Like right now, Scottie's 6.4 box plus minus. It's fantastic. This is like all NBA type shit. I wonder if he's not an 8.0 box plus minus guy right now. Honestly, with more space, I could see it happening. Because one thing people don't realize about space is it also creates driving angles, it creates screening angles, it creates avenues for backdoor cuts and all this stuff. It makes everything more effective. Space is great, but the Raptors don't have it. So it also makes you less turnover prone. It also makes you way harder to double on if you have some space. Space creates so many advantages for the offense and so many disadvantages for the defense that to play without it, to have Precious Achiuwa camping in one corner, Chris Boucher in another corner, Pascal Siakam in the middle of the court with Jakob Poeltl in the paint. Like, what are you doing? And Dennis Schroeder is the guy spotting up above the break. This is awful basketball. So I would just like to see Scottie. I would just like to see him have an opportunity to play with players like this. It's funny. He plays so well with the bench, and that bench unit is often Gary Trent Jr., Malachi Flynn, or bench guards.
Yeah.
Malachi, honestly, I had questions prior to the season if he was an NBA player. Precious Achiuwa and Chris Boucher. Just putting these players around Scottie, they're an archetype. They're an archetype because the upgrade on a Malachi Flynn is, I don't know, literally anybody, right? Pick a name. It's literally anyone. A Gary Trent Jr. What is an upgrade on a Gary Trent Jr., right? It's a scoring guard like a Zach LaVine. That's an upgrade, right? It's a guy who's a bucket. Scottie Barnes was asked in a press conference, a couple of days ago or a couple of weeks ago, like, do you like playing with Gary? He's like, he shoots the ball. I like him because he shoots the ball. When I give it to him, he shoots the ball. I like that.
I think Kevin Herter is better than Gary Trent, and I'm not a huge.
I do too. I think Kevin is better than Gary Trent, and as much as you don't like his defense, he rebounds. I like that.
Yeah, he does. That he will do. Someone says, Kirk says, do you think the Raptors could pry Mathurin, Neesmith, Jarris Wallace,
Jarris Walker? He means
Jarris, yeah,
for
and
OG.
Oof. Yeah, I mean,
okay. I'm not a huge Ben Mathurin fan. That's just me. I don't give a shit about his score.
But you need that next to Scottie. Like you're trying to build an archetype type of guy, like an NBA. He's an NBA player, right? Like you had doubts about Malachi being an NBA player, and which is fair. You have doubts about a lot of these guys being players. I think you get a player, Mathurin, at worst a 6 man of the year type of guy. Neesmith, again, nice bench player, and then
I like smart players next to Scottie. So which is why I like Harrison Barnes and Keegan, Keegan Murray and guys of this sort, even DeJounte Murray. These are smart players. AJ Griffin's a smart player. I like smart offensive players. This is not necessarily something that I associate with Ben Mathurin. I watched him
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah, he's not that smart.
He gets tunnel vision.
Yeah.
A lot. And as someone who has watched Dennis Schroeder get tunnel vision, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch a guy hijack your offense because he's feeling himself. I question also his defense. Athletically, a player like this should be a solid two-way player. He's 21 years old, 22 years old. There's no reason to not be a good defender. He's not a good defender. So with guys like him and guys like Shaedon Sharpe, I understand the offensive potential and the scoring potential because they have these big outbursts. But I would feel so much more secure with a player like Jordan Hawkins or Dyson Daniels or Trey Murphy than any of those guys. The upside might be lower, but the downside risk is nowhere near. They're never going to cost me a series. Jordan Hawkins is never going to cost you a series. Dyson Daniels is never going to cost you a series. I just like players that I don't have to think too much about. I'm a pretty no frills person. Okay, I wear the same hoodie. Like I alternate between two hoodies every single day. I'm like the Steve Jobs of basketball Twitter. Like, I don't care. I am a person who does not like to overthink my options. Ben Mathurin gives me an anxiety attack every time he checks into the game. I understand that he's a young player. I understand he has massive potential. Jarris Walker, however, on the other hand, I like a lot. And
why haven't they played him though? If they need defense,
bro, the Mad Ants played him. Their G League team played him. He had 33 points. He hit a bunch of threes. I mean, they need defense. Maybe they think he's not ready. I think I would just throw him out and see what they have in him.
Can't get any fucking worse, bro. I mean, like you said, you got Obi starting. Like you can't get worse.
Yeah, someone's saying Shaedon is above Mathurin. To be honest, I mean, how do you know? I mean, at this point, like it's like neither. I mean, theoretically, yes. I think Shaedon has like some sort of offensive pop that is very appealing. His game is beautiful. He probably is a better defender, which is not saying a lot.
Shaedon was at 24 when he played the Kings, and we were watching. He was trying to, play on half the court, and we're playing full. And I said, "Fuck no." So we gonna finish our game. Like, he ain't no king. So we finished our game. He watched me play, and him and the other guy, the 6'9" kid. Their backup center was there too. Like, and after that, I'm like, just let these guys shoot.
Robert Williams?
No. The guy that plays, that's actually playing. He's solid. He's lanky. He can. Let me pull him up for you, but because I bet the Blazers tonight plus 9.5, and they covered because they lost by 1. His name is Walker. Jabari Walker.
Oh, Samaki's son.
Samaki's son.
He's awesome. He's awesome.
So he was there with him shooting shots. And,
I don't know. He's 6'9". That's crazy.
Is he 6'9"?
His dad is an all-time draft fit. Check out Samaki Walker's draft suit. It was the craziest thing.
Samaki played with the Lakers.
Yeah. He had an interesting career for sure. Yeah. I mean, he
has more upside than Mathurin, I would say, just because he's just a freak. But I asked him, hey, what's it like not playing with Dame? He goes, quote, "It's just basketball. It's the same thing." And I was like, yeah, you're right. I was like, it's just basketball, bro. Like, I was just like, he was calling me baby Trae Young out there. I was hinting though. So that's good.
That's interesting. I wonder if that was a commentary on your lack of defense.
I played
just
defense.
Fucking pylon out there. Just baby Trae Young. You took the compliment. No, it's because you were splashing. I get it. I get it. Okay. So to sum this up, do you see a trade between the Raptors and the Kings that does not involve OG Anunoby?
I don't think we get OG. I want OG, but I think realistically the Raptors are going to ask for a lot and ultimately end up re-signing him. But the guy.
Okay, let's say we do put OG on the table. Would you guys put Keegan on the table?
No, last year I would have. I think the Kings would have. No, actually, take that back. The Kings are just so high on Keegan. Like, I had no idea how high they were. Like I told you, I didn't see that defensive upside on film in college. He was never that in college, and
Mhm.
he's just taking this like insane. Like he gained 10 pounds of muscle.
Mhm.
He's taking the right angles defensive. Like he's not a freak athlete, but he's a very good athlete, which is
He's
crazy.
coordinated. That
He's a
matters.
functional, yeah, he's a functional coordinated athlete.
Yeah, but people underrate balance and coordination in terms of
Balance.
athleticism and
He's fucking balanced, which is crazy. Like it's just great point, dude. Balanced. He's very balanced. So I think the Kings was just so high. And to your point about Keegan and some of the misconceptions on draft night, what I was saying is everybody said he was the safest pick, no doubt. I was mad because in
they
my
could have traded
eyes,
back.
no, in my eyes, we knew what the Pistons wanted, right? Which they had number 5. We knew that they wanted Ivy. We
Mhm.
knew the Kings wanted. Well, that night we didn't really know yet because
To be honest, they wanted Jalen Duren.
who?
They wanted Jalen Duren. They
Who
wanted
did?
Jalen Duren at 5. So if you guys had
Who did?
taken the Pistons, so if you guys had taken
I never
Ivy,
heard that.
if you guys had taken Ivy, they were going to take Duren at 5.
And then Keegan would have gone 6.
Yes, he
But
would have. He would have.
okay,
He would have gone to Indiana.
so just real fucking fast say it. I wanted Jeremy Grant because we thought we had the leverage, but then it didn't happen that way because everything got leaked. Oh, the Kings are gonna draft Keegan no matter what. So the Pistons were like, go ahead, take Ivy, hold him hostage. So that's why I was mad. And we can both agree. When you have the 4th pick, you always draft upside, not fit. That was my reasoning. But to say that I was unhappy is a fucking lie. I was unhappy when they drafted Justin Jackson at North Carolina, but I was never unhappy with drafting Keegan because I knew Keegan was a 10-year starter. But nobody saw this version of Keegan, which is like potentially a very good defender in the NBA for a long time. So I'm just ecstatic with what I'm seeing. And last year, I mean, you finessed me for OG. This year, I'm gonna say if not getting rid of Keegan lands me Siakam, I'm gonna have to take Siakam over OG. And even though I think OG's,
Don't worry. I finesse everyone. I don't think I've ever lost a trade in
no,
my life. I don't think I've ever
I
lost a trade.
mean, you hated the idea of the trade. It's just that I gave you so many assets like draft picks.
Right, but that's because I kept underselling you on Keegan. In reality, I've always been a bit of a Keegan fan because I like players who are error free.
Everyone's a
Again, I
Keegan
told you I
fan.
don't like players I have to think about. I never have to think about Keegan Murray ever. I told you on the night that he was drafted. I think he's one of the most error free players. He plays like a 10-year vet. Super sensible.
Everyone said that, but we also had a podcast where you said he was the 9th, 10th best player in the draft, and it's looking
I
like
think there's still a chance that he could be one
that's
of
fucking
like.
crazy. At
Okay,
worst,
here's the thing.
he's the 5th best player in this draft. At worst.
I don't think at worst at all. Now, here's the debate, and this is the debate we always get into. Yes, he's taken a major step defensively, but you don't know where the rest of these guys, they're all variables at this point. Guys like Dyson, guys like, Benedict Mathurin, Shaden Sharp, they're all variables. Even Jaden Ivey is a variable. What I can definitely tell you is that he's not going to be a better player than Chet. That's the only player I can 1000% tell you. If Chet stays healthy, he's definitely the best player in this draft.
Okay.
Beyond that,
Jabari, there's
I
a
take
huge question mark with Jabari.
I would take if I had to do a redraft today of the 2021 draft, 2022 draft, I take Jabari over Keegan again. Size, upside, potential, defense, shooting, everything all together. I think he's got a chance to be better. But it's still potential at this point. But he's contributing on a winning team now. You know what I mean? It's not quite the same thing. He's taking a huge leap. And you gotta factor this in. Jabari right now is the same age that Keegan was in his sophomore year at Iowa.
That's fair.
It's a huge, huge thing. Where this guy will be in 2 years. I mean, be honest. If Jabari Smith comes out next year,
all the time.
Guys do plateau all the time. Look,
all the time.
when Vince in 2001 had a value of a replacement, I think of 7.6, boxes minus 7.6, crazy. It was number 1 in the league. Everyone thought 2001, 2002 Vince was going to be like Michael Jordan prime, and he fell off. Injuries happen. Same thing with Derrick Rose. Same thing with Zion, Ja, Ben Simmons. There's countless guys who peaked before the age of 25, right? For sure. There are guys like that. But there are very few guys, in my opinion, that are worse players at 23 than they were at 21. Very few. It's rare. They're either flatline or they're way better.
Yes.
And the jump that I've seen Scottie Barnes take from last year to this year is technically enormous. It's the same thing with Alperen Şengün. Consider Şengün's age, right? Şengün is the youngest player in the 2020 draft, right? Super young guy. He was 18 years old and got drafted. Consider what age he would be relative to Keegan Murray at Iowa. Now imagine if Şengün had come to US, played college basketball for Michigan State. And let's say Michigan State Şengün in his 4th year goes up against Keegan Murray in his 4th year at Iowa. Bro, these would not be even fucking comparable players. Şengün would be like 800 times better than him. That's my point. So when you talk about physical development, cerebral cortex, mental development, the ages between the ages of 18 and 25 are so integral.
Jabari. Who else?
Paolo. That's 3. 100%. So your margin of top 5 is basically hinging on him being better than. So that's the question. It could be Keegan. It could be Keegan.
Who's the other guy that you said that was 4?
Shaedon, Benedict Mathurin, Dyson Daniels, Walker Kessler. There's a lot of guys. Okay. Now we could argue that Walker Kessler's fallen off this year. Jalen Williams.
He's nice.
He's damn nice.
He's nice.
And I think a lot of people would argue he should have gone number 4 in that draft. So you're banking on him being better.
But he's also older too, though. Like he's a year younger than Keegan. So I'm not.
But that's it. He's a year younger than Keegan, and he was better last year. So that's the difference.
But Keegan's better this year. I don't know if he was better last year either. I mean, Keegan
better at what
in the playoffs? Like Keegan was magnificent in the playoffs. Like
Keegan is turning himself into what I consider the second most valuable player type, which is the 3-and-D. Right. Switchable 3-and-D.
Or like an elite.
But Jalen is the most valuable player type, which is a big playmaker. 6'6" playmakers are the biggest player type, in my opinion, in the league.
He's good.
That's why Cade was drafted number 1. That's why Paolo was drafted number 1. Teams are looking for this guy, the offensive hub engine.
He's nice.
Fair. So we're already at 4 players, and you are banking on Keegan being better than the following players. Ben Mathurin, who is 2 years younger. No, he's better right now. 100%. He's better right now.
And he's only going to get better to me. Like Keegan.
Fair enough, but the trajectory has to be leveled out. We cannot compare 23-year-olds to 21-year-olds. It's just not fair. It's like comparing Scottie Barnes to a player who was drafted 2 years before him or 3 years before him. It wouldn't be fair. So when we compare Scottie to Jason Tatum year 3 to year 3, they're both the same age. Funny enough, if I start comparing Scottie to Jason Tatum in year 7, that wouldn't be a very fair comparison. But that would be the same thing as comparing a 4-year senior. Like was Keegan's 4-year or 3-year? Was he 3-year at Iowa? 4-year. Okay. So, I mean, comparing a guy who had 4 years of development at Iowa, granted, kudos to him, kudos to Chris and for completing their education and doing it that way. And I'm not surprised, knowing what
Keegan
I know.
Keegan was an NBA player last year.
For sure.
Year.
For sure. But I'm saying if we look back on this draft 5 years from now, honestly, think about it this way. 2016 draft has passed 7 years now, right?
Sure.
A lot of those guys are prime guys. You remember that draft pretty clearly?
16 is Sabonis draft.
Yeah. Who do you think the number 1 guy in terms of value of replacement is in that draft? Just off the top of your guess.
We got Jaylen Brown. We got Ben Simmons, B.I. One of those 3 guys.
It's Domantas Sabonis.
There you go.
It's Sabonis. Then it is Pascal Siakam.
Oh, yeah. He was what, 27, 28?
Exactly. So after a year, no one could have said Pascal Siakam was
old, though, right?
Exactly. Siakam was a 3-year guy.
That's my point.
I think he was
got
a 3-year
better
guy.
every year.
But Siakam picked up basketball when he was 16. Keegan Murray did not. That's the difference too. It should matter. So but interestingly enough, this is a really interesting point. So you're talking about guys getting better, and a lot of Raptor fans. Now, I was always critical of this. Always go back and refresh my takes from Facebook, whatever. I was always critical of this notion that Siakam would keep getting better past 26. I'm like, no, he won't. Guys tend to peak around 26 to 28. Yeah. This is the age that almost every athlete peaks. You have baseball, football, basketball. It doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. Athletic peaks are real. There are guys who peak earlier. There are guys who peak later. DeMar peaked later. Thaddeus Young peaked later. There are guys like this. There are guys who peak long, like, I don't know, LeBron, I guess is the best. I was thinking of another example, but I'm like, I can't think of another example of a guy peaking long, you know. But when you compare LeBron 2012 to LeBron 2023, I mean, they both scored 25, 26 points, but they are not even comparable players. They're not even close. Like LeBron could anchor your defense, your offense. He could play 40 minutes a night for you back then. He can't do that shit anymore. He might still put up big numbers, but that's different. So when I look at a guy like Pascal Siakam, the last time that I saw a seismic jump from him was 25. 24 to 25, I saw a big jump. After that, I've never seen a big jump from him. So all this notion of like, look how much better he got from 22 to 25. Congratulations. Yes, it was a bit of an extended boost because he picked up basketball a little bit late, but that boost was like a year.
But
some people were acting like he was going to.
You're right. Like he peaked at 27 probably, but.
Right. So you could consider Keegan Murray as 3 years away from his.
But look, if Keegan becomes Chris Middleton, I don't give a fudge. Like, that's what you want as, you know, your second, third guy next to Fox. Like, I'm okay with that. I don't care if he's the fifth best player. Like, if he's fifth to seven and you drafted him fourth, that's a pretty good fucking draft.
I agree. Like, ideally, though, you know, if you like truth, like when I look at, you know, the 2016 draft, how many guys who were picked top 10 are not even in top 30 in value of replacement, right? So you can fuck up drafts badly.
Yeah.
Like you can mess it up with Sheldon Williams and
pick, but yes.
Right. I mean, okay, maybe. But definitely let's not talk about Grady Dick because he's like 20 games into his career. But I'll tell you one guy that you definitely fucked up on, which is Davion Mitchell. But now the difference, but
I said draft fucking what's his name, Şengün, and you know I was so high on Şengün that year. I said he was the fucking guy, and they laughed at me because he's a white.
But see, that's the thing. They were comparing. But this is a front office that has done this quite a few times. Y'all pick seniors. You like players who contribute to winning because you're so desperate to win.
So he drafted Tyrese, Davion, and Keegan. He's 2 or 3.
And now you have Chris Duarte on your team,
who I really like. Like that's my boy. But
I don't, because he was another older guy who was 23 years old who had no business being picked in the lottery.
He was balling. You cannot lie and tell me he was not hooping. He was hooping.
He was okay. It looks better than it is. Someone saying Pod's looking good. Agreed. And Jaime Jaquez, honestly, there's a guy who's 4-year guy and he's great. So it's different. It's different for me. Jaime is like, but if you're expecting Jaime to have the same growth as
Keegan, it's realistic.
Yeah. I mean these two are close. These two are close, but that's the thing. One guy was picked 16th, 18th, and the other guy's picked 4th. That's the difference. Jaime Jaquez might end up being a top 5 player in this draft. He could end up being a top 5 player in this draft, in which case you credit the Miami Heat for picking up this guy. Jimmy Butler is the top 2 guy in his draft. He was picked 30th. So kudos to the Chicago Bulls, right? There's a lot of guys like this, in my opinion. But I just think that when you start rating out a player who's 23 and you start stacking them up against players who are 21, how about we compare Keegan Murray to guys who are currently 23 and then see how you feel about that? Because then it becomes a little bit different.
No,
and
let's go. Let's pull up 23. Is there an easy way to like pull up 23-year-olds?
Just look at the 2019 draft.
Okay, 2019. Zion Williamson, the guy's gonna eat the whole table and eat all my taquerias.
Yeah. Okay. Compare him to Ja Morant. Compare him to guys like that. Like you not see a seismic difference between Ja Morant at 23.
Yeah.
You could consider him even to a guy who was picked before him in Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball. Does he strike you as that level of prospect? He's not, right? He's not. Like he might be more impactful as a third option, but LaMelo and Anthony Edwards have a player type archetype, which is primary creators who are big for their size, like for their position, who can run an offense for you, are the most valuable player types for me. There's literally nothing more valuable in this league than a guy who can do that plus defend. So basically, Anthony Edwards, Scottie Barnes, guys like this, right? Like two-way guys who can initiate an offense for you, maybe 3-level scorers. So if Scottie ever gets low in his stance and learns how to dribble, like super low and get like really creative off the bounce, Like if he can get a Kawhi or a Paul George package, oh my God, it's curtains for the league. He's like MVP for like the next 5 years.
Paul George
So
is the smoothest player in basketball.
absolutely.
He's
So
so
I
smooth. I mean, that guy is so punted.
absolutely. So I look at players like I'm talking archetypes. Keegan Murray is like one of the most valuable archetypes. Another valuable archetype is a stretch big who can defend. Brooke Lopez, Jaren Jackson Jr., guys like this, right?
Brooke, yes, Brooke in the right system. Because right
Sure.
now, Brooke right now is, and I'm not trying to say exposed, just because he's had a fucking great career and he's on the tail end of his career. So I'm not going to disrespect the guy because he's been amazing for so many years. But right now, at this juncture of his career, I would say because his point guard is so fucking weak defensively, he's looking like he's not himself. Now, if you put Drew Holiday, oops, they had him, then he would be much more valuable than what he's looking like right now.
No, I agree. And I mean, Drew Holiday's not looking super great in Boston either.
He's going into a whole new system where there's already roles that are defined, where it's
So
a
is Dame.
whole. No, but
Or is
Dame has the
Dame the
ball,
system?
but Dame has the ball though. You know what I mean? Like Dame has all the opportunities in the world to have a high usage rate, to do whatever the fuck he wants, and like he's just not the same player anymore. I'm sorry, and that's my favorite player, but
Someone's saying Scalabissier Kings.
no, someone said that Dan said that I wanted a. You were pissed when Bloody passed Luka. Duh. Like, that's a generational, arguably a top 10 historical player. Like, yeah, I want to be mad that he passed on Luka. Like, come on.
For Marvin Bagley, who had 20 points tonight.
Marvin, who almost broke the streak. I don't know if I told you, but
that would be his career highlight.
That would have been crazy, but they lost to the Utah Jazz.
Without anybody. The Jazz were literally, they were resting guys. They were not resting guys. They were out. Keontae was out. Keontae George was out. Lauri Markkanen was out. I believe Colin Sexton was out as well. Did Colin Sexton play? I don't think he played.
He did play.
He did play?
The top 5 point guard. No, he's not. He's not a top 5 point guard right now.
You don't think so?
No. SGA is better. Fox is better. Luka's better. Steph is better. I mean, shit. Tyrese might be better. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
What do you think better, Ja or Tyrese? Or Maxey?
I prefer Tyrese just because of the off-court stuff. I could certainly see a case for why in a playoff series I might prefer Ja Morant.
1,000% Ja Morant in the playoff series. But right now in the season, I mean, Ja Morant's pretty fucking good. I'm not going to disrespect the man. So he's
awesome. He's one of my favorite players. But he's 23 years old for sure. There are a lot of guys on that list. Steph Curry, who are a little bit older. Luka doesn't really play any.
Well, Steph is number one. I mean, Steph just because of his consistency and what he's done historically. But
yeah, I mean, there are other guys who could enter that conversation for sure. Drew Holiday for the two-way impact. He's not top 5, but he's in the top 10 for sure. That conversation.
I'm just saying
Trae Young, we could have that conversation of a top 10. Jalen Brunson is firmly there for me. Like, I've been very impressed with Jalen Brunson. So it's funny actually. Today
older player, 4-year player who again, I'm just saying, bro, like Keegan could be the next Brunson in terms of impact.
Slipped with the dumbest comment I think I've ever seen in my life. Tyrese not even better than Trae. Yo, have you watched Trae Young? Come on, man, get out of here. No, what? I understand that Trae Young has appeal.
Good, but
Trae's a good player, but like, I mean, come on, man. Like Tyrese Haliburton is better than he's younger than him too.
Is he younger than him? I don't think so.
Trae Young is 24. Tyrese is 23. He is younger. No, Trae Young is not 24. Trae Young's 25.
Trae is from the 2018?
Yeah.
He's
like 2 years younger than him. Tyrese is 23.
No, Trae is 24, bro.
I don't think he's 24.
He might be turning 25, but he's for sure 24.
25. I just checked. He's born September 19th, 1998. He's 25 years old. Life is passing us by very quickly. Trae Young has turned 25 years old. Congratulations. We forgot to wish him a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Trae Young.
And
belated by 3 months.
And he had a kid, too. recently.
Yeah. So my point is like, okay, like John Morant firmly in top 10, but
Yeah,
questionable top 5, right? There's a lot of talented point guards. It's funny. Last year, Fred VanVleet made some headlines saying he's a top 50 player in the NBA.
that's
He's
fucking
not.
crazy.
He's not. And it's funny because he got paid $40+ million.
That's crazier. I could not believe it.
It is absolutely insane. Now, today, I found myself gaslighting myself by saying Fred VanVleet's probably a top 12 point guard. But
A
now that I'm
what?
actually thinking about it,
A
I'm
top
actually
what?
top 12 point guard in the NBA. Now that I'm thinking about it, he's probably a lot closer to a top 20 point guard in the NBA.
Yes, yes.
There's a lot of guys that I would prefer over him. Honestly, I might prefer Mike Conley over him.
Maybe.
He's older for sure, but I mean, like offensively, I love Conley.
Yeah.
I have questions about Fred versus Chris Paul. Maybe at this stage, I have to take Fred.
No,
But
Chris
Paul's awesome.
Paul. Chris Paul. I'd take Chris over him.
Even
take Chris over him.
I mean, he's taken a step back defensively for sure.
Yeah, but what he does offensively, even for that Warrior team, like when Chris plays, the Warriors aren't that bad. And I'll be honest, like I'm a Warrior
he's
hater.
been great. He's been great for that second unit. So there was a question earlier. What about Pascal to the Warriors? So this trade
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. I wonder if they've become a little bit too attached to Brandon Podziemski to let him go. But if they were to give up Pods plus Moody plus Chris Paul, if you're the Raptors, do you pull the trigger on that deal?
1,000%. Holy cow. Moses Moody's a player. Which, again, they should have fucking drafted over Davion Mitchell, but that's neither here nor there. Yes, Moses Moody, P, and Chris Paul. Can you imagine how much more cerebral Scottie Barnes would be learning from a guy like Chris Paul? Holy cow. That'd be a blessing for him.
This is a point that I brought up so many times. There's no player who's ever played with Chris Paul in terms of like star teammates that didn't get better as a playmaker
SGA.
tremendously. SGA, Devin Booker, all of these guys got better. Blake Griffin became a point forward after playing with Chris Paul. It's not correlation and causation. It's literally happened at every single stop he's ever played at. Like there's no player that I can think of.
Except for Dennis Schroeder.
Even Dennis got a little bit better underneath him, to be honest. He got a little bit better underneath him.
Yeah, that team was fun though. That the three-headed point guards, like they were a top 5. People don't understand this. They were a top 5 team that year, and they lost to the Rockets in the first round.
Was it Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, and Dennis Schroeder?
No, it was Chris Paul, SGA, and
right. My bad. Right.
Yeah.
He got traded for Russell Westbrook. My bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got the Rockets.
That was that was the first time that Chris Paul became I don't know if he was a vegetarian or something else, but he lost so much weight. He cut so much weight. It was crazy to see.
I mean, it's a good idea for players as they get older to cut a little bit of weight back. I think it's funny because a lot of players get heavier as they age, and I think that it hurts them because of injuries.
Zion Williamson, you're heavy at 23 years old, so
that shit is so scary right now. Like, I mean,
scary. I'm sorry to say it. Like, I love his athleticism, but this is scary. Like,
just watching him in the in-season tournament this shit was weird. Like I could see a gut. Like a professional basketball player who's getting paid, I don't like to count people's paper. People go through their own shit all the time. Yeah. I don't like to say because this guy makes $38 million or $40 million, he has an obligation to anything.
It's fair to say that he's undisciplined. I think that's fair to say. In a professional manner, to say he's undisciplined is not it's not fat shaming him. It's saying the fucking truth.
Sure. And I mean, he's never been overly enthralled about being where he's at, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at
New York, one of those
sure, but everyone wants to be in New York, and then they show up to New York, and then they realize
they don't
what being in New York is actually like, right? And I say this as someone who's from New York. Exactly. Like I mean, New York is pressure, right? You can't deal with the pressures. Like to me, it's like who you are. I see it everywhere. Like it's consistent across, right? So who you are shows up in your community engagement. Who you are shows up in who you are as a teammate. Who you are and shows up in your attitude on the bench. Who you are shows up in any market. Show me a professional basketball player who does their job every single day. I don't have to think about, whether or not that player is going to ghost my coaching staff or ghost this or whatever, what have you. And I think like those players are valuable players. I like the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm sad for them that they have Zion on their team. That just screws up everything that they have going there. I would love to see them trade Zion for a good package. Finally, I think we just close this off with where do you think the Kings are going this year, and where do you expect?
I think the Kings are a top 4 team without making the move. I think they have 2 young studs,
You say
right?
top 14,
They're a top 4 team in the West.
top four team. Okay.
At worst, they're a top 4 team. The teams they struggle against, I'm not worried about because the Pelicans, they struggle against Zion because the NBA allows them to play fullback, run over fucking people. But I don't trust him to stay healthy, and I don't trust him to be disciplined in the playoffs where we can actually key in on him.
Mm-hmm.
BI is an issue for everybody, not just the Kings. So the Pelicans, again, in theory, they've lost 3 times to them. The Timberwolves, I'm not worried about. The Kings smacked them at home in Minnesota. I think having those 2 bigs against Fox is just a fucking disaster. Like they're going to have to pick someone to play, especially in the playoffs. The Kings
I would honestly, being straight up, I would pick I would pick the Timberwolves over the Kings in a playoff series. That's just me personally.
That's crazy.
There's like you're saying top 4, like you're taking top 4 at worst. I can think of 4 teams that I would pick to beat the Kings in a playoff series.
Top 4 at worst, but the Nuggets obviously scare me. That's really the one team that truly scares me. I'm trying to think of somebody else, but the Pelicans scare me. But again,
the Lakers don't scare you.
The Lakers don't. That's the one team that I would love to face in the playoffs because the Kings have so much success against the Lakers. They can't. The Lakers cannot handle Fox in transition or in the half court set. Sabonis loves
who's handling LeBron.
Loves to play. Siakam will.
Okay, if you get Siakam. Okay. Siakam was very much a part of the LeBronto lore. Okay, he was there true. Watching LeBron.
Damn it, you're right. Never mind. Don't bring him. DeMar. I'm like, oh shit, DeMar was too.
The whole league has been LeBronto, bro. I mean, people talk about LeBronto like it just happened to Toronto, bro. Like, you remember the Boston Celtics getting like killed by LeBron every single year? I mean, this guy did it to the entire East. No, every fan base has their LeBron moment, their LeBron story. Their LeBron put 50 points, LeBron put 35 in a quarter, LeBron put 20 in a quarter, etc. LeBron literally tormented like 14 fan bases for 10 years. Like, this guy is stamped.
The Clippers don't worry me, but I think the Timberwolves are probably the team that's the most overrated team in basketball. Again, when you have Rudy Gobert as your starting center in the playoffs, where he's been
better this year. He's been great this year.
He don't have a fucking post-up move. Like the guy is. God, I don't know how to describe it to you. It's like I'd rather have Brook Lopez 1,000 times over that guy. Like, he just doesn't do nothing for you in the playoffs. Like, he's a historically amazing regular season, center.
Mm-hmm.
But the Kings already did to them what I thought they would. If they run their horns action and they put these 2 guys in the horns to play defense, they're going to fucking destroy them, as they did. Again, that's the one team that they do not want to face the Kings in the playoffs. I tell you that much. They'll probably do better against a team like the Nuggets just because they're big. Mm-hmm. But like against the Kings who are just predicated on speed and skill, Sabonis is just going to eat them up. The Clippers don't worry me at all just because one guy's going to get injured for sure. And I'm not wishing that. I just think that's going to happen. History tells us that.
If that one guy is Russell Westbrook, they're still fine.
No, I'm saying one of their main 3 guys, not Russell Westbrook. And again, I don't think that one-on-one shit is going to work in the playoffs.
I tend to agree with this Maroon Prince thing. The Wolves are real. Anderson, Reed, McDaniels are great complementary pieces for Edward, Gobert, and Towns. Conley is super solid. I think like it'll depend on health, but I don't think that like to me, Anthony Edwards is the truth. Like, I think he's a really good young player, right?
Really good.
So having like looked at years and years of data on championship contenders, I think the Wolves have more of the stuff that would be considered championship contenders. So you both have your dynamic guard who can perform for you, right? I think theirs is a little bit more two-way and yours is a little bit more one way. Even though Fox is a better defender today, he's certainly not the defender that Anthony Edwards is. Then I look
You
at
think? Hell no.
you
And
think
I'm gonna look at
De'Aaron Fox is a better defender than Anthony Edwards.
If you ask Edwards or if you ask Fox to guard Steph Curry, I'm gonna choose De'Aaron Fox over Anthony Edwards 100%. Yes, that's crazy. Let me see Anthony Edwards. I'll look at his defense real fast. Why is Basketball Index like all of a sudden don't fucking give me all the numbers? They don't have the metric on perimeter defense anymore, which is weird. But
anyways, I look at their complementary pieces, their ancillary pieces like Kyle Anderson. I really rate Jaden McDaniels. I think his shooting is real.
He's good.
Jaden McDaniels versus Keegan Murray to me is a wash. And to be honest, I prefer Jaden McDaniels. That's just me personally. He's a little bit older. I think he's older, but they might be the same age, to be honest. And his defense is just, it's next level for me. Then you got Karl Anthony Towns. I got to ask myself, Karl Anthony Towns or Domantas Sabonis? It's close. They're both pylons on defense. They don't do much on that end.
No,
I think Cat gives you
much better, and he's not great.
He's not great, but Sabonis is also not being flanked by Rudy Gobert and Jaden McDaniels.
But
it's a bit of a difference.
But like that hurts their spacing though. These guys aren't good enough shooters to like. I mean, they're not the Raptors, but fuck, they're spacing, bro. In the playoffs, it's just not gonna work.
But I think like they can go 9 deep, and they legit have 9 really good players. But and their best player is really good. You know what I mean? Their top 2 guys are comparable to your top 2 guys. Let's say Anthony Edwards plus Karl Anthony Towns is a comparable conversation to De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. You can certainly say that your guys are better, but it's a conversation to be had.
100%.
But when I look at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, their team is much better. You consider
in the regular season, yes.
Okay, consider how you would feel about the Kings' following roster. Let's just say this was the Kings' roster. Just bear with me for a second. De'Aaron Fox, Mike Conley, Jaden McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, Domantas Sabonis, Kyle Anderson, Naz Reid. You know what I mean? Like you got tremendous value.
I think you have the same
Kyle Anderson
with Sabonis and with Rudy playing together. It's like the same shit.
It's worse, and that's the thing. You guys are so much worse because Karl Anthony Towns can fucking shoot the ball. Cat might be the best 3-point shooting big ever.
But then look at and it's simple. Harrison Barnes, bro, fucking toasted him. Harrison Barnes.
He's mentally soft, and he's notoriously not. I don't remember.
Guard like Cat has to guard wings in the playoffs, bro. They have to They either have to play Cat at the 5, or bench him, or play Rudy at the 5. They're both not going to play.
They're a bad matchup for you guys because you don't have a center that can force him to collapse. So you play Domantas Sabonis at 4. If you do, are you playing him at 5? Yeah. You play Domantas at 5 and then Keegan at 4?
Harrison's your 4 right now.
Okay. So if I hide Rudy Gobert on Harrison Barnes and I put Cat on, why?
Why? Because they're going to expose that as they did in their first.
Are you okay? Fair enough. But I mean,
they literally. I'm not lying to you. Harrison Barnes fucking destroyed where the coach had to take Cat out of the game.
Well, they put Cat on him. I'm saying put Gobert on him.
Same thing.
It's not the same thing.
Sabonis will eat up. Sabonis would eat up. I mean, if we get the right.
So here's the thing: Karl Anthony Towns is actually a competent post defender. He's a terrible off-ball defender. He's a terrible team defender. He's a terrible help defender. But he's not bad in the post. If you post up Karl Anthony Towns, you will have a bad night. I promise you. So if Sabonis can't space, again, they have an abundance of help defenders. You guys have an abundance of space. So it's
put him in the pick and roll. So if you want to hide him on Sabonis, which is fair, that's a great adjustment. I'm going to counter your counter. I'm going to put his ass in the pick and roll with Malik Monk, with De'Aaron Fox, and they're going to toast his ass.
No, that's fair. I mean, I think like if I'm looking at like as I said, I think their guys 3 to 9 are better. It's not that much better because I do like Malik Monk a lot. It's an interesting series. It will be an interesting series.
It's a fun one. It's a fun
But
one.
I certainly don't think that I would pick the Kings, or certainly if I was picking them, I wouldn't favor them. Like it would be a 50-50 toss up between y'all and the Wolves for me.
Lofton. The Raptors pick up Lofton or the Kings? Because I don't know. I mean,
I
what do you
love
think
Kenny
about
Lofton.
Lofton?
I love him. I love him so much. He's one of
Or
my
would you make
favorite.
him the backup for Sabonis?
y'all want more defensive issues.
Okay. I got it.
But the dude has never met a shot he didn't like. Loves shooting. He's super skilled. Love his footwork, and
He's
I
just
just
big, right? Like he's like overweight.
he carries it well. And he's extremely balanced. He's extremely coordinated, and I just like him. I've always liked him. There's a lot of guys, in the, in this draft class last year that I liked. Peyton Watson, I like Peyton Watson a lot, and I liked him. So I'm willing to bet that someone's going to pick him up. And I mean, if he can ever figure out the defensive end of the basketball court, like he could be a solid contributor for somebody. And of course, weight, conditioning, transition. But he's not a guy who's going to play 40 minutes for you, anyways. But in short bursts, like this is a dude who can put up like 10 points in a quarter, no problem. Quick. Like he's a heater. Like, I mean, I like him. So I would love for the Raptors to pick him up. I don't know over who. Maybe over Marquise Noel or someone like that. I like some of our G League guys. I like Javon Freeman Liberty. I like Jonte Porter, who's Michael Porter Jr.'s younger brother.
What are your thoughts on your center from last year, your rookie?
He hasn't played this year.
Koloko.
I love Koloko. I love him. I think he's got short roll potential. He's a better shooter than he's shown. I've seen him in an open gym just working out. I've seen him drain like 10, 12, 13, 15 threes with solid form, consistent form. He's Scottie's best pick and roll partner. Best. He was his most frequent screener last year.
Injured?
He has a respiratory issue. They've been very secretive about what has kept him out, but he was kept out of summer league. He's been kept out of the entire season so far. He's done non-contact practices all year. He's been doing shooting drills with the coaches. I hope this is something that resolves itself. It's not something that is, terminal or career ending. If it's not, I wonder if the additional year off and just, this entire development staff that we brought in, the coaching staff that we brought in from, Jama to Darko, everyone's focus has been development. Their entire career focus is development. Every one of the guys that we brought in, they're development coaches. So a guy like Christian Koloko, who's worth a lot to us, I wonder if these weeks off, months off are being spent like the way Chet. So last year, what I found most interesting and what made me most bullish about Chet coming into this year is every week he had weekly meetings with the coaching staff. They kept him engaged the whole year. So he's recovering from Liz Frank injury, huge injury for big men. He's out. A lot of teams, they treat that as a lost year. They tell the prospect, go out, go work out by yourself. Go, here, we'll hire a nutritionist for you so you don't get fat and out of shape. They kept him engaged. They made him a part of the team last year. They didn't waste the year because he's worth a lot to them. I honestly think like this is a brilliant move. And I think the reason that Chet is so good this year is because he had last year to just observe. It's a valuable experience to ride an NBA bench for a year and to be in all those meetings, to be in the practice. But he had a meeting, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, someone told me this, that he had a meeting with the head coach every Sunday or every Saturday. They met for like an hour and a half, 2 hours and had breakfast together. That to me is a great coach.
That's good because Marvin Bagley was on the bench a lot for the Kings.
And Luke Walton didn't give a fuck.
And Bagley never got better. So he still can't go right to this day.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. Anyways, any final thoughts here? I realize it's getting probably pretty late for you. It's definitely getting a little bit late for me. It's 2:10 in the morning. We've been going for about 2 hours here.
I think the Raptors are in a very good situation to quickly not rebuild, but it's reload. I think they can reload if they make the right moves. Now they can also fuck it up, and maybe it's just time for Bobby. I think they've been magnificent throughout their tenure. They've made very few mistakes. This year's draft pick was a mistake, but it's okay because they've made Scottie Barnes was a fucking great pickup.
Still think it's too early. Every time you say it, I'm going to say it. It's too early.
No, it's
It's
not.
too early to write off Grady Dick. I would bet that Grady Dick has
Thomas Robinson was a bust from the first summer league game he ever played.
But I thought Thomas Robinson was a bust of the draft. That's different.
I mean, you had him 19th. You had him ranked 19th for a reason.
I had him ranked 19th because, okay, you want my honest truth? I didn't think there was a way in. Okay, I'm used to Masai and Bobby drafting guys like Bruno Caboclo, OG Anunoby, Scottie Barnes, OG, Pascal Siakam. You know what all those guys have in common? Wingspan. They have wingspan, and they're black. Okay, so I did not expect them to draft a white dude who has Grady's decent wingspan, but they never drafted a white guy. And it's so reverse racist because I'm white, but I totally wrote him off for being white and a shooter. I'm like, this guy just doesn't fit. And he's not a great defender. So I'm like, they draft all these guys who have defensive tools. And so one time when Bobby Webster was being asked about it, he was like, oh, we're going to draft another Raptors-y guy. And I didn't realize it was kind of tongue in cheek because Grady is a Raptors-y guy. He's toolsy. He's a big playmaker. He's 6'8". He fits Vision 6'9" because he's got a 6'10", 6'9" wingspan. It makes sense. But the truth is, I had him ranked so low because I didn't scout him enough. I watched 5 games of his. I watched 15, 18. I watched 20 games of Jordan Hawkins.
But if you redid his draft, he'd be even lower on your list. Let's be honest. He'd be like 25.
Not a chance in hell. If I redid the draft board today, he would be maximum 12th or 13th. I would still put him over Jet Howard.
It's a weak ass drafting.
Okay, you and I are going to have a conversation about Grady Dick in a year, and we're going to see if you're wrong. I think you're going to be wrong about him, but that's just me. I'm basing this on, again, I watched him in Summer League. He was good. I watched him in preseason. He was good. He struggled during the season, but he was good at Kansas last year.
Struggling in G League, though. Like, he shouldn't be struggling in G League. He should be fucking tearing these guys' heads off.
That's fair, but that's not really his game. His game is playing off of guys. His game is not.
Even guys that are nice.
Think about the G League.
Tear it up though.
I think of guys who end up in the G League mostly as guys who don't know how to play basketball. Grady knows how to play basketball. Now you're asking him to play. I'm not saying like they don't know how to play basketball per se, but like they're guys who are going out there and they kind of get the game. And it's not like Grady hasn't had a couple of big performances in the G League. He's had some good moments. He's had 3 games that were good. I think 2 games that were bad.
A lot of good players. I think G League has a lot of good players.
No, I agree with you.
Guys playing.
I agree with you, man. Like I think the talent of this league has never been greater. But I did a video the other day where I was talking about why rookies are struggling more than ever. And the reason I think rookies are struggling more than ever is because the gap between the players who play and rookies is so large. It's never been larger. I was looking at the value of a replacement, first year value of a replacement or first year box office, I can't remember, of rookies drafted between 1993 and 2003, which included guys like Chris Webber, included guys like Glenn Big Dog Robinson, Tim Duncan, etc. And then I was looking at 2013 to 2023 and comparing those guys. And it was just negative the last 10 years. Paolo was negative or barely positive. Cade was overwhelmingly negative. Anthony Bennett, obviously, massive negative. Most guys who were picked first overall are negative this over the last 10 years. Because when I look at the draft, think about this. Today, Jalen Brunson, right? A guy like Jalen Brunson, I think debatable if he's a top 30 player in the NBA. He might be top 25, top 35. I don't know. Something in that range, right?
He's playing like it. Is he a top, like you said, top 30? That's a different, I think those are different conversations.
Okay. Who's like a guy like
Fox is not a top 5 player, but he's playing like one. That makes sense?
I don't think he's playing like a top 5 player.
No, I do.
I think he's fringy top 15, but that's just me.
That's fucking crazy. That's disrespectful.
Top 5?
Top 5? He's playing.
Giannis?
He's not top 5. For sure.
Giannis, Jokic, Embiid. Not a close. Luka, not close. Once again, it's just like the Keegan Murray thing. You love being on the margins.
No, I don't.
You think he's better than any of those 4 guys?
I'm not saying he's better than Luka, but fuck, he's playing just as good as Luka is. Yes. He's elevating his team better than Luka is, for sure.
I think Shea's in that conversation. I
think Shea. I can say the same thing. I mean, I'm a biggest fan Shea fan now, but and I wasn't going into the draft. And something that caught my curiosity about Fox. Fox went back, right? Monk, Fox, and someone else went back to play them because Shea wasn't highly doubted. He was like, out of all the guys, he was not even top 50 recruit for Kentucky that year. And he played Shea, and he said, "This guy is the best player on this team." And he was very under recruited, wasn't even All American. And like that's how hard Shea has worked. And now he's in, again, he's playing like a top 5 player, 100%. But
Okay.
he's not. But Shea's not a top 5 player, but he's playing like one though, 100%.
Okay. Refer to estimated plus minus. Okay. These are the top players in terms of estimated plus minus in the NBA right now. As I go down this list, I am many, many players deep, and I do not see De'Aaron Fox. Here's the point.
That's fine.
1, 2, 3,
Anthony
4.
Davis is not better. Derek White's not better. Haliburton is not better. Chet Holmgren's not fucking better.
Chet's fucking awesome.
That's about it though. So
I look at this list, and I look at a guy like Tyrese Maxey. There's De'Aaron Fox right there. Okay. Right ahead of Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, and Anthony Edwards.
You take Fox out of the Kings, and they're like a fringe playing team.
You could say that about you could say that about literally all of these players. Now here's estimated wins. Joel Embiid leading the way. Steph Curry. Now, let's say I flash. Okay, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Damian Lillard. Shit, that's crazy.
That's fucking that's why we
11,
can't be analytical
12.
horrors. Like we have to actually watch games.
No, fair enough. This is one analytic.
Yeah, like use like these numbers to supplement the actual film. Because if we do it the opposite way, then people will think that Damian's better. Like that's fucking nuts.
No, fair enough. And like if I look at another analytics, so let's say I don't look at estimated plus minus, but let's say I look at value of a replacement, I think it would hold similar. So I'll flash it, and maybe this will be interesting for people to just kind of look at who is the VORP leader in terms of the NBA. So naturally, hold on, is this year? This cannot be this year. Jokic is leading this year too? Shit, that's crazy. Okay. So
he's the best player on earth, 100%.
He's amazing. Joel Embiid, number 2, Shea, number 3, Luka, number 4, LeBron, number 5, Scottie, number 7 is crazy, but he's tied with Tyrese Haliburton, Kawhi, Steph. Okay. So Derek White has been incredible for the Boston Celtics. Like he's just filling in a lot of gaps defensively, offensively. He's been great. Jalen Brunson, James Harden, Donovan Mitchell. I think Donovan Mitchell is a good case study. So Donovan Mitchell being the 17th best player in the league right now in terms of value of replacement. If I take this exact season that he's having right now and I plant it into 2004, 2005 when the league was not good, Donovan Mitchell probably a top 6 player in the NBA. Seriously. I look at a guy like Trae Young at 21 or Karl-Anthony Towns at 25. These guys are all top 10 players in that era. So the league is so fucking talented that even as I'm going down to player 49, I'm still ending up with an amazing player like Jrue Holiday, Rudy Gobert at 40. I mean, you have role players who are making the cut. You have DeMar DeRozan at 34, kind of poking to your point of like, okay, let's say I don't use value of replacement because it's overvaluing guys who've been healthy, but let me look at box plus minus. Okay, Jokic number 1 as well. Scottie Barnes number 8. Kevin Durant number 10. Kevin Durant number 10 is crazy to me. There are seasons, I promise you, where 6 box plus minus with 1.7 value of replacement across 23 games will put him as the 2nd or 3rd best player in the league. He's 10th right now. So my point is, there's an 80-20 rule at play here where Grady Dick doesn't get to choose how many minutes he's going to play against Emmanuel Quickley, Bam Adebayo, Malcolm Brogdon, Dario Saric, Isaiah Joe. But ultimately, even if I go down to 100, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Cason Wallace, Norman Powell, these are all fucking players, bro. These are all like heavy potential starter players. Let me go down to 150, just randomly, 150. Eric Gordon. Okay, now we're getting into, kind of shit territory, right? This is how far down I need to go to get into shitty territory, right? But even Gordon Hayward, I mean, bro, Gordon Hayward not having a terrible season so far, but he's like 156. I keep going down. Cade 170. That doesn't surprise me one bit. Shaden Sharp 176. Grant Williams, he was a serviceable role player. He's 177. So that's my point. When I keep going down this list, eventually when I get way down this list, I'm going to see Grady Dick. Grady Dick's the worst player in the league according to estimated plus minus. Right?
Someone's saying about the whole two-way about Shea. Just let me give him some context. I don't know if you can share my screen. I got B-ball index up real fast.
You can. You just have to put present. Just put present.
Present. Share screen.
Yeah.
This one. Okay. Okay, so just to give people some context of what two-way means, he guards the point guard 18% of the time, and he guards a shooting guard 32% of the time. And to give people context without even having to watch a lot of basketball, you will know that their best defender isn't Shea. He's a very good defender. He's a good defender, but it's way different when you don't have the pressure of actually having to guard the other best point guard because you have a guy in Lou Dort who does it for you.
Facts.
So I think people confuse that shit all the time. Now, if we go up to Fox, and you'll see the big difference here.
But the conversation wasn't Shea versus Fox. This conversation was Anthony Edwards versus Fox.
No, I mean, people are talking about Shea is for sure top 5 and that his leap defensively. I'm like, his leap defensively is okay. Fox guards, he's in the ace. He guards the point guard almost 40% of the time.
Because he can't guard other positions as well. That makes sense.
I mean, no, because he takes on the challenge of actually wanting to guard.
But you think De'Aaron Fox, someone as slight as build as De'Aaron Fox, he's not that big. He's going to guard small forwards and power forwards? No, he's not. He's like it's like Dennis Schroeder, man. Dennis Schroeder is not going to guard power forwards, but if Dennis Schroeder was 6'7", he might.
No, but if you understand what I understand, and like actually within the context of the team, he wants that matchup though. He can. You say he's little, but he's fucking big. Like Fox is big, bro.
He's like 6'3".
No, I'm saying he's like physically.
He's strong,
and like he's muscular, like he's big. Like
okay, if I put
Steph Curry in person, bro, looks nothing like on TV. Steph Curry, I promise you, because I'm right next to him. Like I'm like an inch away from these guys. Fox is the same way. Guys try to post him up, like these bigger guys, shooting guards, small forwards. They cannot fucking move him. They can't.
So if I put Kawhi Leonard in the post against De'Aaron Fox,
he's guarded Kawhi very well. Yes, in the post. And we can actually look that up. He's done a magnificent job on switches. I'm not worried about Fox, bro. He's fucking strong.
Okay. I think I've watched too much De'Aaron Fox in 2018. I think that might be my problem right now. Yeah, I think I've watched just way too much of him being a pylon.
When the wrong guy was his coach.
Yeah, and you know what? This is true for everything. Anchoring bias, right? People got introduced to Scottie Barnes as a non-scorer. Draft coverage non-scorer. People have a really difficult time understanding right now that he's a 22-point per game guy. He can close his eyes and whatever, be good. So it's the same thing with De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, he's shooting like 38% from 3, isn't he?
Absolutely. You know what's crazy?
Crazy.
Like I was thinking about it this month. Are you still sharing your screen? You're done with this?
No, go ahead. Do you want me to look Scottie up?
Yeah. I mean, you can. I was gonna. I mean, I don't need to pull it up. I can basically remember it. So I shared a tweet which went pretty crazy. And we were talking about Scottie Barnes December 22 versus December 23.
3-point shooting, B+. Holy fuck, that is crazy. Here we go. 80th percentile 3-point percentage, B+. Pull up 3-pointers. That's where he's struggling, but it's okay. That's just a shit offense as well. But it's also his development coming in.
Yeah, man.
Catch and shoot, A-, 85th percentile. Again, fucking amazing, difference from last year.
Above the break, he's been awesome. Corner, it's like one corner he struggles, one corner he's good, but
openness rating, he's struggled. Average 3-point shot distance, average feet from the rim. A 3-point shot is made using tracking data from Sports Radar. It is at the 70, which is good, B+. So yeah, he's much better, man. Overall perimeter shooting, B+. He's in the 80th percentile, which is just massive improvement.
Yeah, man, he's been great, and it's like I look at someone like this
Who
and I'm
does he
like,
guard the most? Let's see.
he's
Without looking, who do you think he guards the most?
um
Close your eyes.
I'm looking up uh small forwards, shooting guards, point guards, centers.
Okay, you're right. Small forward. He guards a small forward 24% of the time. Power forward 20 is so he's very balanced, right? Shooting guard, small forward, power forward.
Yeah, if you look at OG, it's very similar to this as well. They're both like this, like
Yeah,
where they are like extremely versatile. But that's the point. Like they're like honestly, funny enough, I do think point guards are his toughest matchup because he doesn't navigate screens as well, and especially if they're
hmm
jittery or quick or extremely decisive paint finishers like a Jalen Brunson. He would struggle, but he would struggle against Emmanuel quickly as well. He would struggle massively
it's
against him.
hard to be a great screen navigator when you're that fucking big too. Let's add
Absolutely,
context to that. Like De'Aaron
absolutely.
Fox is the best at screen nav. What Davion Mitchell's the best, but he's not a player. So De'Aaron Fox is just magnificent at screen navigation. Like he'll fucking anticipate it and just go over it easily.
Oh yeah, I mean, like in theory, that's what the appeal of Dennis Schroeder was as
Yeah,
as a player, right? Is because he can get into those little spaces. Now, he's been hilarious defensively the last few games, where he's basically like he's selling so hard on defense, bro. Like he's just like he's forgetting to guard his man. He's just like he's going under on a screen, then diving on the play to the basket. He's just it's the craziest shit I've ever seen. Him and Pascal defensively right now is a fucking masterclass in lunacy.
they're not
And
locked in. Is
they
it
don't
your
care.
culture? Like, is it your culture? Is it the lack of culture? Like what? Like what is it?
I think it's just guys who are looking around wondering what's the point? What's my focus? Are we winning? You know, like earlier in the year, OG and Scottie were guarding like motherfuckers. Like they were going crazy. Like these two were like it was impressive. Like it was really impressive to watch how much they were, giving themselves up on defense, how hard they were fighting over screens, how quickly they were closing the gap, how much effort there was to close out to corner shooters or even rotate over to block a shot or whatever. Scottie's defense has gotten worse as the season has gone on. OG's defense the last couple of games has been non-existent, and it's been kind of tailing off for a couple of weeks now. So you're seeing the defensive energy just float, float, float. Now, I was very critical of Pascal Siakam the first 7 games, so I was like, this dude's not playing defense. Jakob is creating issues as well because he's not nearly the paint defender that he used to be, even though crafted defensive plus minus, which is vaguely focused on the Darko model, LeBron model, still sees him as a 99th percentile defender. I disagree with that as someone who watches him play. I disagree
There
with the
you go.
analytics on him. So the downside of the defensive schemes, I don't think the schemes are wrong. It's a funny thing. Darko is coaching perfect basketball. He's coaching perfect basketball. Defensively, his schemes are so much more balanced and conservative, but like they make more sense than Nick Nurse. Last year, Nick Nurse got it in his head. There was some stat. There was some stat that said, I think, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it was like basically if you win the possession margin by more than 5, which is to say if you take 5 more shots than your opponent, your odds of winning are like 70%. So they decided to game the system and they won the possession margin by a crazy amount. And it did not work because they were gaming it. They were basically artificially trying to create that difference. And every night you would see the Raptors take 10, 12, 15 more shots than their opponent because they're spamming the offensive glass, but they're giving up such incredibly efficient offense to the other team.
So in transition.
Yeah, defense and offense are so intrinsically linked that people don't understand like how much, like for instance, the Kings have an efficient offense, right? It's predictable. It comes from predictable places. Even if you're missing long shots, you're not missing more long shots than the other players, than the other team. That helps your defense because you actually get to set up once in a while. You get to play. You don't always have to. The other team is not always catching it off and going the other way on you. And it also helps when you have switchable defenders because cross matching in transition is so much easier when you have a guy like Scottie who could literally end up in one of 5. The whole thing with transition defense, as you know, is like you basically pick a guy and then you fan out. So if Scottie's the first guy back, you're good because he can guard 5s. If he's the last guy back and he's the one picking up the ball handler, at the point of attack, you're still okay because he's competent enough and he can trail on it and provide resistance from the back. So having the personnel that the Raptors do, they should have a top 5 defense. They don't. They haven't all year, but it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And I think it's because guys like Siakam just refuse to box out. They don't rotate. They don't communicate. Darko's talked openly about, we have guys who don't like to communicate on defense. And it's just like professional basketball players don't like to communicate on defense. But I know this to be true as well. Having sat courtside a couple of times and having sat close to games, I've seen, certain guys just always talking. Marc Gasol was a guy who always talking. He's like yelling out this crazy shit in like broken English, He's just letting you know. He's letting you know, like, okay, yo, my man, yo, you get back across that. Watch shooter corner. He's calling out everything. He's quarterbacking your defense. I felt like when Scottie was a little bit lower in the defense, things were going better. But then Siakam was so high up in the defense and he was more of your point of attack or guarding your wings or whatever. He was getting exhausted. His shot wasn't going in. Now, for a little while, they reversed the positions. Scottie's a little bit higher up in the defense. Pascal is responsible for the backline defense. The whole thing fell apart. So maybe not the most appealing pitch to have Siakam be your center. But if he could be held accountable by someone and he knows that he's going to be there, he has shown himself to be a competent, rim protector at points in his career. He just hasn't been for the last 2 years. But yeah.
Is that just age or is that just buying in? Like that's
the thing. Like today we were having this conversation on Twitter and we were like,
that's where I'm afraid to like take the risk. I'm like, well, fuck, is it age? Is it him just being
I haven't seen
washed, but like
I haven't seen any notable decline physically with him. He's still quick as a jitterbug. He still gets to his spots. And to me, it's like this is the whole thing with NBA offensive players. Can you get to your spots? Can you beat guys to your spots? That's it. That's literally it. That's the Kawhi equation. That's the Paul George equation, Devin Booker equation. Every elite offensive player is just good at getting to their spots. Pascal's still good at getting to his spots. His spots have changed. That's a problem. So his spots used to be different. They're different now. That's one thing.
But his spots are like 1 or 2 moves. And if you adjust to it, he has no counter because he's limited.
He's gotten better at it. Like he's gotten a lot better at it. He has more counters. I think in the post, he's a lot like I was a little bit surprised by how efficient he is in the post. I used to get a little bit worried because it was so predictable. 4 or 5 years ago, it was a spin move up and under, flick the shot at the rim, whatever. He's getting real clearance. Like there are times this year where when things are going right for him, I'm just like, oh shit, like this guy's a top 20 offensive player in the league. If his defense could ever catch up, like he's a top 15 player in the NBA right now, maybe top 20 player in the NBA. And all those conversations we were having last year were valid. But when he mails it in on defense and he can't shoot, like it falls off quick. Today, someone said he's easy top 30. I argue he might be closer to top 40. But if he starts picking it up defensively again, because I mean, let's be honest, when he and Kawhi were together, they were the highest scoring duo in finals history, I think, like since Jordan and Pippen or something like that. Granted, Kawhi did a lot of it, but Pascal was no slouch. He was he was very important. And Kawhi missed a ton of time that year with load management. Pascal stepped right in. The very next year, we were actually on pace to have a better record while losing Kawhi and Danny Green, largely because of the jump that Pascal took. And it was just at age 25. So he's had a groin injury, shoulder injury since then. I wish that the actualized version of Siakam could come back. I wish I could see that player. And there have been times this year where I've seen some super inspired defense, but I don't know what is going to connect with this guy. I don't know who's going to connect with him. I don't know if he just has his mind checked out and he's just like, trade me already. They've been dangling him for a while. It's kind of like the Jaylen Brown thing where they, maybe this guy feels disrespected that, hey, I'm such a good player.
Not feel disrespected. Fuck, got paid.
Yeah, but I mean, they all get paid. Every All-NBA guy got paid a max contract. Name me one All-NBA guy who's not making a max contract. He earned All-NBA twice. I mean, he put the work in to do that, right? So I realize that there's reputation on the internet for being more of a Siakam hater. I'm not a Siakam hater. I think I'm pretty staunch as a Siakam realist. I don't like to gas him up as something that he's not. I also don't like to put him down as something that he is not.
He's a top 40 player. I don't think he's a top 30 player anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And I think also Dennis Schroeder sucks. Like, I just want to say that It's so fucking. He's just not good. And when I think about Pascal Siakam at his best, he's moving without the basketball. He's getting easy ones. He's cutting back door. He's spacing. He's attacking in transition. That's the entire Kings offense. So I personally, like, just as a personal morbid curiosity, I would love to just see it for 3-4 games, and I would love to see if it actually does click for him. I have a feeling that when we trade him, eventually, whenever we do trade him, I think your camera died. Your mic is still on.
Does my mic work?
Yeah, your mic's still
Okay.
your mic's still good.
Cool.
I like whenever we do trade him, I have a feeling he's going to explode on whatever team he gets traded for, especially if it's Atlanta, Indiana, or Sacramento, because I think he fits like a glove in all three situations, and he's going to score a lot, and he's going to put up big numbers, and it's going to be all new. And I think for a while, people are going to be like, "We're idiots for trading him," and I think it's going to generate a lot of buzz. I wonder how it will look like in 3 years when Scottie is 25 and ready to win championships. That's when I think Siakam's decline will be firm. And that's what I worry about, because if you're the team holding the bag and he declines at 31, well, now you're holding a player who's declining at 31 with 4 years left on his contract at ungodly numbers. So really the question about Siakam is not whether he's worth, a max contract or whatever. He's close, but maybe he's not quite worth 40 million. The only way that this turns out to be a disaster for someone is if he starts to decline this year or next year and you sign him to that contract, and now you're holding the bag on 4 years or 5 years of a declining asset.
Yeah,
who doesn't have the marketing cachet of a James Harden or a Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, I'm not, like, the more I think about it, and I've been thinking about this whole show, and now I'm not really scared of taking the risk and putting all my chips in if it doesn't compromise Keegan. Like, if I can land them for Harrison, Kevin and Davion, just to match up the numbers and the pick, then that's a risk that I have to take, because if I believe that Fox is that guy, why not go out and get him some help? And the last time I checked, top 40 is better than fucking top 150 in Harrison Barnes. So that's a huge that's an upgrade for the Kings, even if the fit isn't the best. So,
he's not that far removed from being top 25, top 20 last year, right?
Last year, but I just feel like watching them more this year.
He's more efficient this year, believe it or not. He's shooting better from the field overall this year. His 2-point percentage is higher. He's getting easier looks this year. So this year he's in a better offense for him. His shots are more created, but they're being created by guys like Dennis Schroeder. Think about how much better it would be if it was being created by Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. The space will help. The same thing that's true for Scottie is true for Siakam. They need space to drive. It's the same thing that's true for Giannis. I know that Scottie and Siakam are not Giannis, but they're the closest thing in the league to Giannis. These two guys are like that prototype of straight line drivers, big wing forward guys who like to bully ball their way to the basket.
I think it's going to happen. If I'm being honest with you, I think the move would have happened, but because of Harrison Barnes' contract that you can't trade him until a certain day, like that Siakam deal, because I know for a fact, with the close source, Siakam wants to be a King. And I think if they don't get Levine, which I hope they don't, then they're probably going to go out and go get Siakam, if I'm being truthful. I want OG, but I think...
I always knew he wanted to be in California.
He wants to be a King, yes.
I didn't know about the Kings thing, but I thought, it makes sense because he has roots there. He has people there, and I thought the Golden State Warriors, LA Clippers, they all made sense. If you think
they
about
all
it.
Make sense for him. Like all those teams do.
California makes sense for Pascal. No, I get it, and also from the Raptors' perspective, trading a guy away to another conference where you don't have to necessarily line up, a contender in your own conference and have to deal with Pascal Siakam for the next 3 years. Because honestly, like there's a version of reality in which he blossoms. And I think the Raptors are terrified of that. I think the Raptors are terrified that in a different situation, when the spacing is improved around him, that he's going to go back to 25, 7, and 8, and it's going to be a really, really like, oh my god. Because look, man, like you got to realize, last year the Raptors fan base scapegoated 3 guys mainly for everything that went wrong with the team. Right? Who was it? Pascal Siakam. Sorry, not Pascal Siakam. Scottie Barnes was number one. Villain. Fred VanVleet was number 2 villain. Nick Nurse number 3 villain. Guess what? They're all thriving this year. All of them are thriving. Okay, and as someone who was criticizing, Fred all year and Nurse all year, I'll own my L. Yeah, they weren't entirely the problem, right? So it's the same thing with Siakam, right? You could consider Siakam as a bit of a scapegoat this year, but when he goes to another situation and he starts thriving and he starts averaging 25, 26, his teams are finding him in transition. I see him in my head. I see this guy in place of Obi Toppin on the Pacers, and I'm like, oh my God, they would be so much better with him. So I understand the Raptors' trepidation of trading him, but the truth is, it's not going to happen here. It's not going to happen here with Scottie and with the spacing you have. It's just not going to happen. So that's the sucky part for the Raptors. You're trading away a guy who's way better than he's shown this year. He's probably going to pop for the other team, and you're going to take a huge PR hit because the guys that you get back are not going to be as good as him. So you're probably going to have to get back a young player where you can be like, patience, wait for Benedict Mathurin, to pop in 3 years. Or, don't worry, Jarris Walker is going to be a really good player or some shit like that.
I think if you put Kevin and Harrison with Scottie, it becomes like that team that when they traded, what's his name? Rudy Gay. And like you make the play-in and then you make the playoffs. It's just like, oh shit. It's like one of those things.
It might be that way. It might be, and I certainly can see a case, but when you start stacking up, like especially when the media starts, because you know how the media talks, 25, 7 and 7 is going to be 25, 7 and 7, right? Yeah. And if Siakam ends up on the Kings and the Kings end up going on like a 15-game run or win streak or whatever, he's firmly back in all NBA conversations again if he's doing really well. And because Fox and Sabonis would probably do a lot to accommodate him and get him touches if he's being efficient, and that offense is going to provide all sorts of spacing for him to attack. Bro, this guy's a terror going to the rim. So that's the thing. Like I look at a guy like this and I'm just like, could this guy go to another team like Indiana or Sacramento or Atlanta and playing with a way more dynamic guard than he's ever played with? Trae Young, Tyrese Haliburton, De'Aaron Fox. These are the best point guards he would have ever played with other than Kyle Lowry. And to then go from Dennis Schroeder to that, the looks you're going to get are going to be so much easier and you're going to pop off. You make all NBA. Now the Raptors media, who are already very, very, very big Siakam fans and they don't want to trade him, they're going to be roasting this front office. And now suddenly like Masai Ujiri, and if this Harrison Barnes,
unless you win,
even if you win, it will be hard to sell because you're winning with guys who are basically role players. If you win with the We the North thing worked because DeMar and Kyle ascended. Scottie already ascended. That's the difference. See, it would be different if Scottie was buried right now. You trade Siakam, Scottie blossoms. Scottie's already blossomed,
but he's not winning. So if he's not winning. But if you win, though, I think that just helps his argument of blossom. See what I'm saying? Like the narrative changes. Now all those Siakam lovers are fucking like, oh, I'm a Scottie lover. I've always been, and obviously you'll keep receipts. But I guarantee you, if they make an 8 seed, the whole narrative changes on Scottie. Now he's like the most beloved Raptor in history.
I think the Raptors would probably do better in trading, like if they get like some sort of picks or young assets back for it, because at the very least, then they could sell the notion of the timeline adjustment. PR-wise, it makes a lot more sense. Because at the end of the day, if you end up making a very similar trade to the Rudy Gay thing, you don't get the same pop unless Precious Achiuwa or OG Anunoby or Grady Dick or one of those guys ascend with him out of the way. And
OG
then you get your second.
Be the guy, bro. Like OG could be.
OG could be that guy. He could blossom into a 20-point per game guy.
And then you justify the money that you're going to pay him.
Exactly. It would be very similar to the clearing up the room for Fox to blossom after trading Tyrese Haliburton thing that you guys are talking about, where you look at it and you say, okay, I know these guys are both great players, but they weren't going to work together. It's the same thing with Scottie and Pascal. Maybe they don't work together. Unfortunately, the analytics actually show that Scottie plus OG plus Pascal have a very positive net rating as long as the other two guys are not Dennis and Jakob. I have never in my life seen a team waste away an entire season for two players more mid than Dennis Schroeder and Jakob Poeltl. But really, if the fourth guy is Gary Trent and the fifth guy is Otto Porter, the lineup is positive. If the fifth guy is
last year, though, like last year, Like
Well,
y'all still
last year
didn't win.
the Jakob, Scottie, so the
Fred.
last year they had the best net rating in the league to close out the year with Jakob, Fred, OG, Scottie, Pascal. But this addition of Dennis Schroeder completely negates the value of what you were getting. Number one, you take a huge defensive step back. So even Scottie taking this massive step, which you detailed in your analytics dive there, where he's become this way better shooter, even him taking that big jump has not masked the gap between Schroeder and Fred. It's not in isolation. It's not, oh my God, Fred is 1,000 times better than Schroeder. It's just the Fred VanVleet spacing.
It's a smarter player as well.
He's a way smarter player. He's a way better shooter. And he just genuinely attracts such a different amount of attention, a different type of attention as a pick and roll ball handler. So even though neither player is good at finishing at the rim, when Fred VanVleet goes into the paint, teams guard him. They really guard him. They care that he's there because they trust him as a passer to maybe
They were
find an open
guarding
guy.
Dennis last year and like his entire last 7 years. I don't know what happened to Dennis this year.
They
Dennis
don't
was a
guard. They
great
go under the
attacker.
screen on him. They kind of like just shade him. They shadow him in the paint. They're not pushing him out of the paint. They're kind of just daring him to shoot with their arms stretched up because they know he's not a great paint finisher. And if they've seen him clank the ball,
though. That's why I'm confused. Like
a great paint finisher is like De'Aaron Fox or John Morant.
well, not
he's
great,
not.
but,
He's
but
not
like
great.
he was
He's like
good, though. He's been good his whole career.
as a paint finisher.
Yeah, for sure. Look at it. Let me show. Let's see, Dennis. I don't know how to spell his last name, but
SCH. Yeah, there you go.
playmaking. He got a D for 3-point shooting. Are you seeing this?
Yeah,
Okay.
I pulled it up on the screen.
Let me see. 1-on-1 finishing A, bro. 75. And then finishing again, not De'Aaron Fox, but it's still a fucking B. And if you look at VanVleet, he's probably like a
rim shot making is an F. That's what I'm talking about. Rim shot quality is a D. Field goal percentage at the rim is a C minus.
Spacing though, your spacing's fucking ass.
But he's the reason the spacing is fucking ass.
No, well,
I mean he's at least 60% of the problem. Yo, Jakob can't shoot for shit. I agree. But he doesn't play all his minutes with Jakob. That's the crazy thing about this entire analytics profile of the Raptors.
Rim shot creation. The Z-score rating evaluates a player's ability to get to the rim, leveraging the player's unassisted volume per 100 possessions and rate unassisted at the rim.
Oh, he has no problem getting to the rim. He has a very quick first step. He just can't finish when he gets there.
Let me see. So
finishing talent, I'm pretty sure, is not just paint.
Yeah, I mean, rim shot making, that's bad.
Yeah, man, he's 11th percentile.
The Z-score evaluates a player's ability to finish once at the rim. Okay, so that's fine. Let's look at last year's though. 2022, 23. Now I'm curious because C beat mine. Let me see. Oh fuck, he was awful last year too.
He's even worse last year. He was 4th percentile last year. So that's my point. He's terrible. So weirdly enough, he's actually better this year.
Great possessions to satellite sample samples. What the fuck does that even mean then? So his drives. When the fuck was he good? Was the year? And I know he was good one of those years. Let me see. 2021. Who was he with? The Lakers. See, there it is. Oh no, it's not. God damn, he's fucking awful.
Every year you think he's better, and you realize that this year is actually his career high.
Fuck. Let me look.
It's the best he's ever done, and the fucking best he's ever done is throwing the ball up at the basket like 6 times a game. He might have been better at Atlanta.
Here he is. B plus, 77 percentile. He was an A overall. What year was this? 1920. Who was he with? Okay, see, that was the year that he played with Chris Paul. That was Chris Paul effect.
That might be it. Yeah, I mean, look, man, he was a different player and also he was coming off the bench. Fair value. He was playing up against bench units a lot more. That makes sense.
Was he, or were they starting all three?
He was 6th man of the year. I mean, he was I think runner up for 6th man of the year. So he definitely came off the bench. a lot. They finished the game with those three a lot.
Okay, you're right.
But they started someone else at the three. But we are 3 years removed from that, and four different Dennis teams removed from that, bro. He's been on the Lakers, he's been on the Celtics, he's been back on the Lakers, and now he's on the Toronto Raptors. I've dated like 6 people since he was a good finisher at the rim, okay? And I've been in a 4-year relationship right now, so I'm like, I mean, we're like clear.
God, that's Dennis is far less selfish than Fred. That could he's pretty selfish.
Honestly, bro, I don't think I've ever seen a 40% usage Fred VanVleet fourth quarter. I might have seen it once or twice. And honestly, like to me, it's like if you the 60th best player and you take up a lot of usage, is a really different equation than if you're the 150th, 160th best player. And definitely, like I mean, I have a lot of issues with Fred VanVleet for sure, but there's always redeeming qualities with him. There was always intelligent playmaking. I always knew he knew the right thing to do, that he had the talent, that he provided spacing and gravity and floor spacing for his teammates, that he was a good screen setter in theory when he wanted to, that he was a good post defender, that he was a great help defender, that he was a great communicator. And like, I mean, honestly, like, I mean, this channel pretty much grew as the Fred VanVleet hate channel. Yeah. So I'm coming a long way, coming full circle on him. I've talked to his family recently, and I've just kind of like, I've broken bread, and I've just said my piece. I'm like, look, y'all were in the way of Scottie's ascent. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way that you went around it, but respect. Like, you turned yourself from an undrafted guy to a top 60 player in the toughest league in the NBA, in the world. That's fucking crazy. I can never undersell how hard he worked to get here.
But Dennis is a sixth man, bro. And I just feel like he's not being optimized. He's being optimized as a starter. And that's the number one issue here. It's like, what do you expect from a guy that's best as a sixth man, you know? And I think that's the number one issue with the Raptors not fucking doing things, really anything in the offseason. So I just think they're prepared to make a move. And the move is going to be, you know, getting like that actual point guard to play with Scottie. And if that's Murray, fuck, that's going to be nice.
Yeah. Facts. Anyway, thanks a lot for coming on, man. This was a super good chat. 2 hours and 41 minutes later. I hope people enjoyed it. We had almost 300 people at one point, which is, you know, midnight on our time, but, you know, decent on your time. I want to thank the Basketball Zone community and also the Pensare Basketball community for coming together. Kings, Raptors. Let us. Oh, I did promise our fan base that I was going to negotiate a treaty on behalf of Raptor fans with Kings fans. We will vote for Keegan Murray and Domantas Sabonis to the All-Star game. Y'all vote for Scottie Barnes.
Well, I'm voting for Scottie for sure. I mean, I don't think he's gonna make the starting unit just because it's a popularized fucking contest. But if he don't make, like, you know, like the reserves, that's if you don't make the reserves, that's saying that the coaches don't believe he's an all-star, because those are coaching voting. That's not fan voting at that point.
I mean, I wonder how much Darko has pull with those coaches and how much he can push for his guy. It sometimes matters, you know, how popular the coach is himself, like who's pitching his guy. Obviously,
I'm just saying, whenever they game plan against him, a coach can be like, fuck, that guy is good. See what I'm saying?
Right. But then it's like, you know, if you are a coach that doesn't really believe in the analytics, you might think Scottie versus Paolo is splitting hairs and just give the vote to the guy on the better team.
Because they're winning. Yeah, for sure.
But like, I mean, I look at that and I say, if I put Scottie on the Magic in place of Paolo, they're probably like the best team in the East. Like, the gap between these two players is enormous to me, but the coaches might not see it that way. I have come to really, really question sometimes the coaches' intelligence in the NBA. They're great politicians. Some of them are smart.
That's a great argument there. That's a great argument. If you swap those two, I still think the Magic are the same or better for sure.
I think they're. Like, I mean, defensively, he's such an upgrade on Paolo. Defensively, they're both shooting crazy well from three. The only gap is really where they get their points and how they get their points. And I think you can argue that Scottie's a better playmaker. I think he's a more dynamic playmaker.
But if you swap him over here, I think his numbers are better as well. He's probably gonna average more points. Probably gonna average more rebounds because he's splitting that shit with Bronze. So I don't know.
But here he would have to split it with Pascal.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Dennis and OG. Like, I mean, there's a lot of talent on both sides. The difference here is you have a guy like Jalen Suggs, who I think is really, really popping off
Bro, I
defensively.
told you this guy wasn't a fucking bust.
Yeah, you did, and I didn't listen, and I was wrong. He's been great, and I turned around.
Mentally too.
I
I
turned
think
around on
he's
him
turned it
last year.
mentally. Like I think mentally he's fucking turned it around. 100%.
No, I agree. He's turned it around largely. I saw it last year, and I started like talking about how I think Fred VanVleet needs to be traded
I
and
remember
go to
that.
the Magic and go for Suggs. And we thought, hey man, Suggs is still struggling with his shooting. He's struggling with injuries. Maybe they want to, kickstart this whole advance. And then Markelle Fultz starts going off. Cole Anthony starts going off, and I'm like, oh shit, maybe they don't need Fred so bad. And yeah, Jalen Suggs has been great this year. I mean, in terms of defensive EPM, you would be surprised to know that for pretty much most of the year, he has led the league in defensive EPM. He has been
Who has?
intense. Jalen Suggs.
He's fucking solid, bro. He's
Yeah,
a dog.
defensively, he's solid. He's annoying as fuck. He's annoying as hell. He literally, like in the first quarter of the first game of the, in-season tournament, he's like, celebrating like it's, halftime at the Super Bowl. He's crazy. But the energy is infectious. And honestly, watching this gutless roster at times, I wish one of our players would play with the intensity of a Jalen Suggs. It would be great. So I think that guys like Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Isaac, Wendell Carter Jr.,
That's somebody I'd go after. Isaac.
Yeah, you and I have always liked Jonathan Isaac. I don't know if it's because he's religious or if because he's such a solid person or whatever, but
he's just injured. Like he's a good player. At one time he was a defensive player of the year candidate. I don't remember that. Like before his major injury, he was a fucking stud defensively.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sabonis is T-Rex arms, Leo. I mean, that's what KOC would say.
That is exactly what KOC would say. I wonder if that's KOC's burner. He found out. No, but I look at a guy like Mo Wagner, Franz Wagner,
they have
Cole
a better
Anthony.
roster for sure. I'm just saying this is how coaches
deep.
are like
it's like 10 deep. Goga Batiste is awesome. That's a sentence I never thought I'd say in my life, but he's been great. So it's like you look at that roster.
Why not both though? Like why not Scottie and Paolo? Who the fuck else is making it in the East, bro? Like the West got way more talent, and it's not even close.
I mean, okay, so
like De'Aaron Fox, even though he's again playing like a top 5, people are having him like the last guy to get in. That's fucking crazy.
It is a more talented conference. I mean, it's especially if you're talking guards. Like you have so many guards, and especially the popularity contest. Yeah. Like.
And he's Kyrie. He's like the worst popular guy in the league because he's so low. He's just so low key. He don't give a fuck.
But that's the same way I feel about the Toronto Raptors right now. Who the hell is watching the Toronto Raptors? I know Raptor fans who are not watching the Raptors right now. So they're definitely not a league pass team. He's not Wembanyama, right? I still think to date that more people watch Scottie versus Wemby than have watched Scottie games, all other Scottie games combined this year.
Okay.
So it's probably good for him.
So who's making it over Scottie and Paolo is my question. Because when I look at the East,
Julius Randle, possibly.
Fuck no.
He doesn't deserve it, but he's in New York, bro. He's gonna get. Well, first of all, Knicks fans kind of hate him.
No, it's Brunson or Randle. They're both not getting in.
Okay. So
that's it. So you got a guard, you got Maxey, you got Tyrese. Those are your 3 guards, right? And you got Tatum, Embiid, and the other guy that's pretty good.
Kristaps could make it.
No, he's not making it. He hasn't played enough.
I mean, the case for Scottie is solid. He should make it for sure. He should make it. The only case against him is he's on a terrible team.
So the Bulls don't have an all-star. The Magic have 1.
You realize the Bulls are ahead of the Raptors in the standings right now, right? Yeah, and DeRozan averages more points than Scottie.
But not more rebounds or more assists.
No, fair. Look, man, if you sort by fantasy stats, like Scottie's a top 10 player. If you sort by box plus minus, value replacement, he's a top 10 player. I just don't know how much. Having basis on coaches that I've talked to, they don't care too much about value replacement and box plus minus and EPM. They're going on eye test and feel. A lot of them are, right? So I wonder if,
and they should, but
it's both. Though, like someone told me today, like I was listening to the Twitter space and they were like, "Yo, bro, you guys talk about stats. I talk about the eye test. I'm not all about the eye test." And then he proceeds to tell me that Siakam doesn't have the ball enough. But this is why the eye test is so flawed, because you're seeing what you want to see. You're seeing a quarter where he got frozen out, and then you base it on reality, and that's the whole story for you. But the truth is, Siakam had 7 games where he was getting low usage, and then he had 14 games where he was at 30% usage. And so it's like the numbers don't lie there. I like the stats. So like, it's, for instance, like you thought Dennis Schroeder was a good paint finisher, and I'm like, he's not. I'm watching him every day.
Yep.
But I'm looking at his numbers too.
Exactly.
Right. So the numbers are good confirmation for the eye test. Now, obviously, look at, like you can, I think eye test contextualizes the numbers. It allows you to see why you're seeing what you're seeing.
For me, it's asking that individual player, whether that be Dennis or Scottie, and actually, obviously, it's fucking hard for a fan to have that access. But if for me, more than numbers and with the film, it's asking that player what the coaches are asking him to do, what he can and can't do in an offense. And I feel like if people had that information, it would make so much sense. Like for everything that they do, be like, okay, so this coach is asking them to stand in the fucking corner or to go set that screen, rather than like you said, oh well, Yaka should get the ball more. Like, no, motherfucker, he's not getting it because the coaches don't want him to get the ball. So if you have that information, that would be so valuable. Role optimization. Like, what is your role on this team? What are you allowed to do, and what can't you fucking do? See what I'm saying? Like that matters.
No, I agree. And like context matters. So like Cade struggling, it matters that he's lacking spacing, but it also matters what his percentages are. And it's always difficult. I think it's always difficult to have the argument of what would happen if I swap this guy for this guy. What would happen if I swap Scottie for Cade on the Pistons? Some people would argue the Pistons would be a borderline, play-in team with Scottie Barnes over Cade Cunningham. Some people would say they still lose 24 games. There's no gap between these two guys, and Scottie would struggle with the play. He would struggle with the spacing that the Pistons have. So I just think it's like it's all over. It's really difficult to isolate. And it's always the hardest thing to be able to say, like for instance, like the context.
Jimmy Butler's going to make it. Jimmy Butler's going to make it. Donovan Mitchell's going to make it. Brunson's going to make it. Paul's going to make it. Embiid's going to make it. Max is going to make it. I think Scottie gets in as the last guy, bro, because the Pacers have Tyrese, which is he's probably going to start because it's in Indiana. Brooklyn don't got enough. Oh, never mind. Fuck. Mikal's going to make it. Yeah.
There you go.
So Mikal is he's the guy.
But Scottie's been better than him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But
he's been better than most of these guys. And that's the point. And it's like, so I'm trying to get people to vote for Scottie, but we're being strategic with our voting because a lot of people
are. See what I'm saying? Like he's right there, so he might or might not make it.
But Canada's a huge country, man. It would be like if the entire state of California decided to vote for De'Aaron Fox, you would get him in. But the entire state of California can't vote for De'Aaron Fox. Y'all got 4 teams. But that's the point.
No, but
America got 29 teams. Canada got 1.
But they'll vote for Austin Reeves, and he'll have more votes than De'Aaron Fox. That's how stupid fucking fans are.
Honestly,
it happens every year.
If I want a racism litmus test, I always see how people feel about Austin Reeves. He's like a great racism litmus test for me. Like, there was this dude who showed me his All-Star ballot the other day. Yo, bro had Mo Wagner and Austin Reeves on his ballot. And I was like, bro, what the fuck? But here's the funny part. Racist got played because he had Alperen Sengun on his ballot too. And I think he had Jaime Jaquez on his ballot. And I was like, oh, he accidentally put a Mexican and a Turkish person
player in there.
because his issue isn't actually race. It's just melanin. Like, he's just got a problem with dark skin. So he's just like, any person who's got light skin, I'm voting for them for the All-Star game. Yeah, I don't know.
So he might not make it just because perceptionally Mikal, has a better record, but it's close. It's not like it's not far-fetched to think that the coaches might vote him in, especially if they make a little bit of a run.
They should, but I mean, like, their next game is in Philadelphia. They're going to get smoked tomorrow by Philly.
But they play,
and then Philly they're on the road
strong though.
I
mean, but they play Philly strong.
They've lost twice already to them, and once it wasn't even close.
The other one they covered, I think.
Yeah, but what were they covering? A spread of like 10 points. So it's like it's not really close. Nick Nurse understands his team very well. And coaching against them, he understands exactly how to shut down Siakam. He understands. I mean, he struggled with Scottie. It's interesting. Scottie has played well in both Sixers games. I wonder if he's still got some salty reserves about the way Nick Nurse used him in his offense the last couple of years.
Oh shit! I'm thinking about the guards for the East. So Trey Young, right? Donovan Mitchell. Someone's not gonna make it.
Yeah, Jalen
'Cause
Brunson.
Brunson, Tyrese, and Maxi.
Well, I mean, there's no hard and fast rules on the bench that they have to pick number of guards versus number of bigs, right? So they could potentially that there's two wild cards where they can go either guard or wing or guard or forward, and it's probably going to be a guard. That's
Yep.
what I'm saying. Scottie has an uphill battle, but I believe that if he gets further ahead on the votes, like if he's top 4 in votes, top 5 in votes, I think it'll put him on the radar a little bit more. I think the votes will count regardless of whether he gets voted in or not. Because I think that it will. It's adding more attention. Like I'm obviously like very much leading this to the best of my ability within the platform that I have. And one of the things I've been telling people to do is stop voting for Giannis, Joel Embiid,
Yeah,
and
because
Tatum.
you're fucking duh. That's common sense, though.
It's so common, but it's not common. You know what I mean? Like how many people do I know that are literally filling out their ballot? Siakam, Scottie, Giannis. And I was like, bro, he's got to beat out those two guys.
You have to beat out Siakam, his own fucking teammate. You
He does
idiot.
have to, because if somehow, like imagine if every Scottie fan votes every day for Siakam, and then every person in Cameroon
Cancels out.
votes for Siakam, and all the African fans vote for Siakam, and people in Canada vote for Siakam, and maybe some fans. The way people vote is so fucking interesting to me. So a Chicago Bulls fan, right, who hates the Celtics and maybe hates the Bucks for whatever reason, right, and they want Kobe White and DeMar DeRozan to make it. They're going to vote Kobe, DeMar, and then they're just going to fill out the rest of it with whoever. They don't care. And it's going to be Embiid. You know what I mean? If they don't hate the Sixers, it's going to be Embiid, or it's going to be Siakam, and it's going to be Jaylen Brown or something, or somebody else, Julius Randle. They don't care because they just want they just want the backcourt. Same thing with Indiana. They're going to vote Tyrese, but most people vote for one of these three guys as a default. And that's how they get all these votes, right? It's not like people are passionately voting for Jason Tatum. It just seems like a sensible person to vote for. So if you're in the West, like if you're a Kings fan, you're voting De'Aaron Fox, Keegan Murray, DeMontis Sabonis, right? You have to vote for those three guys. Maybe you vote for Malik Monk too. You'll vote Kings across the board. But then for the East, you're going to vote Giannis and fucking Embiid, right? And that's how those guys get those votes. They get those popular votes because everyone thinks they're supposed to vote for those guys. I look at a team like, so for instance, there was a time Vince did this Asia tour with Yao, okay? Where I think it was 2001, 2002, if you remember. He did an Asia tour with Yao Ming. And the very next year, he became like, I mean, he was already an insanely popular player, but with Nike doing this whole Asia tour with Yao to popularize not only Yao, but also Vince, then also like his Olympics dunk and everything and all the hoopla of that, everyone started voting for Vince. Then Tracy McGrady goes and plays with Yao in Houston, and suddenly you are seeing Shane Battier and Tracy McGrady as all-star vote leaders every single year because of all the votes that are coming in for Yao. Why? Because Asian fans are voting for all the fucking Rockets because they watch all the Rockets games. That's my point. So when Raptor fans vote strategically and stop voting. I have been literally voting for Grady Dick and Jakob Poeltl and OG Anunoby with Scottie Barnes on my ballot every single year. I mean, every single day. And yeah, so I think it's strategic. If enough people pick up on this, I feel and there's been so much buzz for Scottie. Like it matters that there's enthusiasm to vote the guy in. I haven't seen this much buzz to vote a guy in since DeMar and Kyle in 2013, 2014, when they started We the North. That was the last time where people were like, oh, we gotta get these guys in. Because there was actual love for those guys. There was no real love, in my opinion, for Fred VanVleet and Siakam when they were pushing their all-star bid. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't a serious enthusiasm in my circle, at least, for it. It was just kind of like, yeah, I'll vote for them, whatever. But it wasn't like I'm gonna get out there every single day and vote. So it's kind of like, when you notice there's enthusiasm for a particular politician or whatever, like it's kind of like how I knew that Trump was gonna get voted in, because there was so much crazy enthusiasm for him, and it was like freaking like yikes. Right. The people who like him, they really, really like him. So they're going to vote no matter what, rain, shine, whatever. But the guys who like this other guy, they just hate the other guy. So
And
they
then
might not vote. If it's a
and,
bad day, they might not vote. You know what I mean?
and then what helped him was Bernie or bust. Like people love Bernie Sanders, and when he got robbed by Hillary, like people were like, "Fuck it, I'm not voting for Hillary." And then she lost because people were voting third party, right? So that third party helped Trump. And the same shit,
Exactly.
same logic with like Scottie or with like Fox. Like, well, if you vote SGA and Fox, motherfucker, what do you think is gonna happen?
Exactly.
Like, come on, it's common sense, bro.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it. And so that's why I've asked, the Raptor fans to be very strategic with their votes this year. Hopefully we can set up a maybe we could set up a but
Where is
I
he at
wish
right now? Is he top 10?
in voting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do they show voting every day? I don't think they do. I think they
So
they show you after a little while.
no, so they show you once a week. So
Okay,
this,
cool.
I think
It just started 2 days ago, 3 days ago. So
so. It may, yeah. In a few days, they'll show like the rankings of where they are.
but that's also the important thing. Voting early versus voting late, right? So all those January 25th, sorry, December 25th, January 1st, January 5th, January 12th, January 15th, and January 19th. Notice how committed I am to voting for Scottie the All-Star. I've memorized all the dates where votes count triple, right? So all those days are going to count for triple. What I'm saying is if Scottie is top 3, top 4, top 5 even, and Raptors Twitter finds out about this, the push to vote him in is going to be so strong. But if
I
he's
doubt it
if
though.
he's 12th,
Yeah, I'm not. I don't
they're
think
not going to vote for him
I don't think
anymore.
Raptor fans are voting for him like that.
We'll see. I have never seen Raptors Twitter more passionately voting for a guy in my life. Now, maybe this is a bit of a confirmation bias because maybe I typically know more people who vote for Scottie than most people. But I have a feeling that this guy is going to be like top 6. And we haven't seen a Raptor finish top 6 in a while. Maybe Siakam was that good, but like there's been so much positive publicity about him. I just don't know if it's enough positive publicity to push someone away from voting for Tatum or Embiid or Giannis. You know what I mean? It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. Genuinely, I don't think he's going to get voted top 3. My hope is I can get him into the top 5. If we can get him to the top 5, now he's on the coach's radar.
Look, I think Austin Reeves will have more votes than him, unfortunately. And he will have more votes than De'Aaron Fox.
David Duke's America, man.
It's true. Like Austin Reeves led, I think he was like top 7 last year in the West, which is fucking crazy.
Bro, if you saw the reaction, like I talked to a few people who went to Vegas for the in-season tournament. Every time this guy touched the ball, there were guys who were like,
I know.
They were having like an ASMR experience on that shit.
It's just fucking crazy.
It's a combination of a lot of things. It's number one, he's playing for the Lakers.
Yeah.
It's number two, was he dating Taylor Swift for a bit there?
I have no fucking clue. I don't keep up with that guy, but he does a whole little hair thing, which people love.
I mean, there's
Brady Dick. I don't think will ever be on the popularity level of him, but
I mean, he already got stamped by Fat Joe and Drake. Right. What the fuck else do you want? He got his own podcast on Bleacher Report for a day to interview Brandon Miller. For a day, he did.
Oh shit!
Yeah, look, man. Like, I mean, if Grady ever pulls it together, and I'm sure he will be in one of the most insanely popular players in the league. I'm telling you,
he might
because he's got this crazy charisma about him. He's got a crazy charisma about him. He dances. He's funny. He's got like, yeah. I mean, dude's got his ads already. He's got his own fucking ads, and he's averaging like 1 point per game. Like, come on, bro. Like, I mean, I'm kidding. He's averaging 3 points per game, but still, like, he's been terrible, and he's got ads already.
He's averaging more points than LeVar Ball. That's crazy.
Than LeVar Ball.
LeVar Ball is more popular than Grady Dick right now, maybe.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Good show. Good vibes as always. And best of luck to the Kings. Best of luck to the Raptors. Completely two teams going in different directions, but hopefully, a trade gets done for y'all, a trade gets done for us, and maybe it'll be a trade where we can actually get on and be like, hey, y'all got Siakam now. Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever say I love him, but I do think I'll say I like him again because I was the biggest Siakam fan, but We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Context changes everything. There's so many guys who go to a different situation. Sometimes guys just need a change of scenery, man.
Facts.
They just need a change of
100%.
scenery. And yeah. All right. Peace,
All right,
man. Have a
boys.
good one.
Yep.
See ya. Bye. All right. Make sure to go over to Basketball Zone and give this video a like over there. And make sure to give this video a like over here. We simultaneously broadcast on both sides. So regardless of which side you caught it, I hope this was a fun conversation for you. Certainly was a fun conversation for me. Leo and I have been getting very contentious in our text messages about things. So it was good. It was good to talk things out in a lively way. And I always think we have a good ping pong. So it was really great. And big thank you to Basketball Zone and Leo Baez for coming on and, giving us some different perspectives and things to talk about. All right. Talk to y'all later. Have a good one. Have a good night. And again, as I said, make sure like, subscribe, all that good stuff. All right. Talk to y'all later. Bye.